Hello, welcome to Adoptium Summit 2025. This is our second edition, and we are really happy to have you here. Who I am? I'm Carmen Delgado. Maybe you already know me. I'm Adoptium Program Manager at Eclipse Foundation. This week will be my third year. Woohoo for me. I also helping to Step Forward, which is a volunteer for women in tech. I am a mom. I'm half Venezuelan and, Spanish, so that's the reason of my accent. And I've been around different industries and collaboration for over the past 15 years. And if you want to know about me and follow me, all my handles, social media handle are the same. So just go through, discover what I'm sharing and what I'm interested of. Welcome and thank you to everyone who submitted the proposals for this Adoption Summit edition, to our program committee members, to our Adoption Marketing Committee who took care of deciding the branding, the topics, the dates, etc., messaging, etc. All the Cliff Foundation team that helped support and organizing this event. Thank you again to this wonderful team and all of you who registered and find interested all the topic we're sharing and will join and learn more about our adoption projects and our community and what about what's next with us. Um, we want to use this edition as every year to thank our members and our sustainers. Those are our governance and financial supporters. We have strategic members, enterprise member, and participant. You will see some familiar and very known companies and big organizations that support adoption, and also enterprises and small organization like JOG or Open Elements, and we have a lot of sustainers. Sustainers is how we name our sponsors. It could be either financial sponsorship or in-kind sponsorship for all the services needed to support every terminal release you will have on time. Some housekeeping, just a side note, I used the same script as Tim did last year. It was very useful and very educational for the community. So yes, we are going back to the housekeeping. This year we switched our webinar tool to Zoom webinar. So woohoo to using Zoom. So keep in mind we are in learning curve. So if you have any question also, it's a very easy tool how to use it. The program includes 4 full sessions, 3 lightning talks, and 1 special session that you need to stay tuned to that middle session to know what we want to share there with the community. All the sessions will be recorded and we will upload it to our YouTube channel. It's Eclipse Adoption. The handle is Eclipse Adoption, and there you will find beside this Adoption Summit edition, last year Adoption Summit edition, all the lighting talks and all the videos that the community have recorded to talk about how the projects work, any project update, any community update needed. Everything is there. We have hundreds of videos available for our community and users. And what are you going to do as attendee? Your microphone will remain mute because you are a webinar attendee. If you have any issue that need quite quick assistance, please raise your hand and the team will help you. If you want to connect to other attendees, use the chat option. If you have any question for both the speakers, the community, and the organizers, use question and answers option. And as we know that we have a lot of attendees from different countries, from Asia, from Latin America, and so there are not English native speakers, you have the option to use captions and it will be allow you to have subtitles. And we're going to share a feedback survey. Please fill that survey as this will help us for us as a speakers, as a community, as an organizers to improve our performance and to get feedback from you, how interesting was the event and the sessions. So let's do a reminder of what is adoption, because we are always talking about adoption, and there is some kind of confusion along the community using the names and the brandings in both ways. So adopting itself, it is for both the working group and the top level project. The working group is the governance entity that champion open source Java solution. And it's a community-driven development and vendor neutrality. That's why we have all those members involved in the governance and in the execution of the projects. And our goals is to increase both the contribution for all developers and members company. Adoption as a top level project is like the parent project of some of our main projects, like Temurin is the runtime. Is based on OpenJDK, is TCK certified, and one differential and value proposition that a community has is the Aquabit verification that is also an open source project that is available for anyone that needs to run their own builds. Terminal is a high performer, cross-platform, open source, specification compliance with all the security specification that needs to be implemented. And we have as many builds as you can imagine. As said, our Aquabit project is a quality verification program running a large pool of tests until you don't see how many tests, hundreds of thousands of tests are run with each release, you don't understand how big is this project and how important it is to get this Aquabit verification. And it assures security, durability, scalability, performance for all your enterprise solutions and your production-ready solution. Mission control is a lower head monitoring and management to run any Java runtime application. Migration toolkit is also an important project that helps enterprise users to migrate from Java 8 to higher versions. And we also have the Adoptium Marketplace. It's a one-stop shop with different runtimes that are all of those options are under Aquabit verification. So let's get ready for the summit. Again, thank you to our PC program committee members. This year, we have the pleasure to work with George, Adam, Lam Chia, and Sang Hong Lee. All of them are part of the working group and are also a steering committee representative from their different companies, Microsoft, IBM, and Alibaba. Thank you for your time on going through all the submissions and deciding what was the best schedule to share with our community. Please enjoy all our 10 speakers. We have a speaker from different locations. Thank you to all of them. Thank you for taking your time and investing your resources on sharing your history or your project updates with the community. And so the topics of today, I have summarized of the 8 sessions in 5 main topics. We have real world use cases. These use cases will talk about how to use either Temurin or Aquabit in their day-to-day projects and day-to-day implementation. We have some project updates from Migration Toolkit team and Aquabit team. We have community voices. We're really happy to have this session. Is they will share the history as a contributors, as and also as committers of the project. We are also celebrating the 30 year of Java, and that's why this community is so big. And we are also celebrating the community, Adopting Community in Action, our journey review, and how can you support this journey together with the Adoption community. You have the link and the QR that will guide you to the agenda. And if you want to check the final schedule and what's your session of interest, please enjoy this time. They have 5-day event. We have put a lot of effort and enthusiasm on getting things done, and really, really hope that you enjoy everything we have prepared. And I want to welcome our first speaker. He's joining from Japan. So I asked him, and it's already 8 p.m. for him. Thank you, Kenji Kazumura. He's a senior architect of Java technology at Fujitsu. He is the enterprise member representative at Adoptium Steering Committee. Today, Kenji will join. He will explain how cloud native sandboxing with Second and App Arbor is securing the Java software supply chain using Adoptium technologies. So we will learn about that, and he will provide some practical application on this performance, on how to use Adoptium projects. Over to you, Kenji, and thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today at the Adoptium Summit. I'm Kenji Kazumura from Fujitsu, and today we are going to dive into cloud-native sandboxing with Second and AppArmor. We will discuss how these technologies can help us secure the Java software supply chain cooperating with Adoptium technology. Today's agenda. We'll start by setting the context, discussing the challenge of securing the software supply chain in the Java world. Then we will dive into sandboxing technology. Finally, we summarize the key takeaways. Before starting, a little bit myself. I serve as some members of several Java-related groups or committees, including Adoptium Working Group and JCP Executive Committee. And I'm also working for Fujitsu as a Java architect, and Fujitsu provides several Java-related products, which include Fujitsu own build OpenJDK, and some of Adoptium technology has been implemented in the Fujitsu build OpenJDK. So let's get started with the first topic, the intersection of Java and software supply chain. I think most of you know well about software supply chain, so I am going to talk briefly. As you can see, the security threat can emerge at any step of developing process, like coding, building, packaging, and so on. So because of that, in the worst case, bad package, which include malicious code, are spread in the world. So we need to do something to protect our chains. At Adoptium, we are aware of these challenges. The Temurin project has made a significant effort to provide a trusted JDK. This includes using reproducible build to ensure binary are consistent and verifiable, providing the SBOM, software bill of material, for transparency, and so on. So these efforts have led to Temurin project achieving Salsa level 3. So we are doing good job. So with the trusted JDK, is our work done? You have your Java application running on a trusted JDK, which runs on the host operating system. So this clean separation seems to suggest you can now focus only on your application business logic. But in the real world, picture is far more complex. Our applications are built upon a vast ecosystem, including untrusted third-party dependency, like here. And furthermore, with the dangerous features like JNI or FFM, which is foreign function memory, untrusted Java code can interact directly with native library by passing the trusted JDK. So each of these untrusted dependency has the potential risk to be attacked by an attacker. So it is important to recognize these vulnerabilities within the ecosystem. So how do we manage the risk from these dependencies? There may be several ways, and plan A would be to fork and audit every single library we use. But as you can imagine, this is practically impossible for any non-trivial application. So this leads us to plan B. We accept the fact that we cannot fully understand the behavior of third-party library. Instead, we focus on controlling their behavior from the outside. We place them in sandbox to limit what they can do, ensuring they only perform safe actions. Well, that is a sandbox. And I think as you may know, Java has a long history with sandboxing through the security manager. It was originally designed to contain untrusted applet running in a web browser by restricting what the code can do. But as industries shifted to server-side Java, people likely think that you are running trusted code on the server side. So the primary threat was no longer untrusted code. This is one of the reasons why Java Security Manager has been deprecated. But look at this table. This is a research paper published by CMU. This research itself is a little bit old, but this is a list of the OSS which use Java Security Manager. It shows that the Security Manager was used by some of major server-side OSS. And speaking of the OSS, we often feel that OSS is trustworthy because its code is open for anyone to inspect. But as the recent XD backdoor incident proved, transparency does not automatically equal trust. These comics perfectly illustrate OSS dependency problems. We simply cannot blindly trust all our dependencies. So now we have learned that we need some sandboxes, but Java Security Manager was already deprecated in the recent JDK. So the question is, how do we build the next generation of sandboxes? For the reference, we look into the container approach. The Linux provides the combination of several mechanisms to protect the container process. For our discussion today, we are going to focus on two key security technology related with sandbox, that is AppArmor and SecComp. SecComp stands for Secure Computing Mode, and both SecComp and AppArmor are Linux kernel modules. And they are widely used by container runtime, like Docker and Kubernetes, to build sandboxes. SecComp job is to control which system call a process can make. And AppArmor, the job is control access the resources like file or network socket. Okay, let's look at the detail of the SecComp. This is a flow of SecComp. There is a process running on the user space, and this process make attempt to call a system call like read or write. And SecComp intercept this system call before it reaches the kernel. And based on the predefined policy or rule, SecComp decide whether to allow the call or to disallow the call. This is a very simple flow, but one important thing that you need to keep in mind is that you can filter system calls based on their parameter values. But this really works only for argument passed by value. For argument passed by reference, like a file name string, seccomp only see the address in the user space, like 0x1234. So seccomp cannot see the actual file name, like foo.txt. Because of that, it is difficult to filter a system call based on file name by seccomp. So you can configure several actions to seccomp. For example, act kill process means terminate the process if violation of the rule. And act error number calls the system call to fail with an error code. And act log allows the call but logs it. And this action is very useful when you are trying to create a white list profile for your application. And using the seccomp with Docker is very easy. Of course, seccomp works in non-Docker environment too, but I will use Docker environment for today because it is very easy to use. This is the example of the configuration file for the seccomp. You define your policy or rule in JSON file. In this example, we are allowing all system call by default in this line. And we create a specific exception for write system call, make it return an error with this action. And then you just apply this policy at runtime using with this security opt flag. Okay, let's see a demo of seccomp with Java. At first, I'm starting a Docker container with Temlin 24 image. So JShell is the default entry point of Java container. So please notice that we haven't applied any security rules yet. So this is the normal behavior. I'm executing a simple piece of Java code to create a new directory, like temp, abc, and mkdir. This is Java code. And result is true as expected. So that means that we can successfully create the temp directory and make sure to see the list of temp here. And yeah, there is ABC directory for sure. So this is a normal behavior, nothing special, nothing interesting. Next, let's use the seccomp profile to restrict this behavior. This is the profile, seccomp profile to restrict this behavior. Again, default action is seccomp allow. That means we allow all system call by default. And this is a specific exception for mkdir system call. And action is seccomp at error number. That means when we call mkdir system call, seccomp just returns an error. And let's run the container again. In this time, I add this option, security opt and seccomp equal mkdir JSON. And again, JShell. In this time, I'm executing exactly same code as before. And go here. And in this time, the result is false. And make sure the list of temp directory. So there is no ABC directory. So Java mkdir method of file class call finally mkdir OS system call. And seccomp intercepted this mkdir system call, and as we instructed here, the kernel returned an error. And then JVM translate into this false value as a result of mkdir method. So this is a seccomp, and it is very easy to use. But the problem of seccomp is it can restrict only OS system code. So this demo is very easy. You can imagine the relationship between Java mkdir method and OS mkdir system code. But in general, it's extremely difficult for Java programmers to know the corresponding between Java API and OS system calls. Moreover, Java API and OS system call do not typically have one-to-one mapping. So because of this, the way I recommend for using seccomp is create a whitelist. At first, create a whitelist of system call by running your application using seccomp with log action in a secure environment you send. Then in the production environment, reject any system call not on the whitelist. This is one of the use case of seccomp from the viewpoint of Java developers. Okay, let's move on the AppArmor. AppArmor is almost same as seccomp, but it's focused on controlling access to the resources rather than the system calls. You can define the rules for files, directory, and socket, and signal, and so on. This is the mechanism of AppArmor, and it is very similar to seccomp. But before using AppArmor, you need to use AppArmor parser command to load profile into the kernel. Profile is a set of rules you define. After that, process makes attempt to access some resources like foo or bar. AppArmor intercept this access, and it checks the profile rule and decide either allow the operation or block it. AppArmor offers two modes of operation. Actually, there are more modes, but mainly these two modes are used. One is enforce mode. This is the default mode, and where the profile rules are all applied in enforce mode. And another one is complaint mode. In this mode, no actions are blocked, but any violation of the policy is just blocked. This mode is very useful when creating a whitelist. And using AppArmor with Docker is also very easy. Again, AppArmor also can be used in non-Docker environment, but again, I use Docker environment in the demo. Here is an example of profile. There's some boilerplate code, but the name here is the name of the profile. And this part is a specific rule to deny the access to specific directory. And just like with the seccomp, you attach this profile with the security option like this. Okay, let's move on the AppArmor demo. This is a profile I prepared. And the name of this profile is mkdir-java. And there is some boilerplate, but the important part is here. We create a special rule to deny these resources, temp ABC. And before using AppArmor, we need to register this profile to the kernel. But I have already registered this profile. So make sure with AA status command. And here, mkdir Java profile is in enforce mode. Okay. Now, let's run the same Docker container. In this time, I add this flag, security opt AppArmor equal mkdir Java profile. And again, JSL, and I'm executing the same code as before. Then ABC and MK here. So in this time, the result is false because this resources match this rule. And try another one. For example, X, Y, Z. In this time, the result is true because this resource does not match this rule. And make sure the list of temp directory. So we see only XYZ directory, but not ABC directory. So I think for the Java developers, AppArmor is easier to use than seccomp because the resource names are intuitive for Java programmers. Okay, next, seccomp again, but in this time, it is a little bit different from before. As I mentioned before, standard seccomp isn't inspect argument passed by reference like file name. There is an advanced feature called seccomp notify that may solve this problem. It allows the kernel to pause a system call and delegate the allow deny decision to a helper or filter program running in the user space. The filter program then inspects the calling process memory to read the file name and make a more informed decision. But the trade-off is that you are now responsible for creating and running this filter program. So this is a flow of seccomp notify. A process makes a system call, and seccomp intercept this call and send a notification to the filter program running in the user space with the parameters. And this program, filter program, investigate the parameters and make a decision and back the decision to the kernel. And the call is approved. If the call is approved, the kernel proceeds to execute it. And how does the filter program analyze the parameters? This picture is a little bit complicated, but the point is here, step 3, the notification from the seccomp include process ID or parameter value. In this case, the memory address in the user space, 0x1234. And filter program use these information to analyze the target process in the user space. In this time, filter program read the memory address 0x1234 and get the actual file name. And this program use this information to make a decision. So I'm sorry, but today I'm not going to talk how to create filter program. But traditionally, you require to use C programming language for creating the filter program because seccomp provide only low-level interface. But thanks to the new foreign function and memory API, FMM, in modern Java, we can now write this kind of system-level code in pure Java. So let's move on the seccomp notify them. At first, let's quickly look at the handler code. This is the Java code using FMM. And I don't explain the whole of the program, but there are just 2 points in this time. The one is here. This is the socket name, which is used for the communication with the CAN. And another one is here. Here is a policy logic or filtering rule. This means you need to write your own logic in handler code by yourself. I created a very simple one for this demo. It inspects the path provided to the MKDA system call. If the path is exactly same as temp XYZ, it will deny the request. But for any other path, it will allow. This is the handler code. And MKDA. This is a configuration file we pass to the Docker runtime. It is almost same as the previous one I used. The difference is here, I changed the action from sect act error number to act notify. That means that this kernel not to decide on its own, but to send a notification to the filter program through this listener socket. This socket name must be the exactly same as the one used in the handler code. Okay, let's start the handler code. This is Java code. And again, I start the container. With the security option. JSL again, but you can see some notification is already get by the handler because JVM creates some directory during the initialization, but there is no problem. Okay. So I execute the same Java code like ABC and MK here. So in this time, the response is true, and the handler also received the notification of this system call and return the OK response. And try another one, XYD. This will be blocked. And the result is false. And handler logged this call and returned the NG response. And make sure the list of temp directory. So only we can see ABC directory, but not XYZ. Okay, we've covered some sandbox technology. Now let's bring it all together. This table provides a high-level comparison. Java Security Manager offers a powerful feature, but it's it's a little bit complicated. And most important thing is Java Security Manager has deprecated. And standard seccomp is very simple, but it cannot inspect resource paths. And seccomp notify provide the most granular control, but you need to implement filter program by yourself. So there is no single best answer. The right choice depends on your security requirement and your skills. To wrap up, securing the software supply chain is one of the most critical challenges in software development today. The Adoptium provides several technologies to make a trusted JDK, but it is not sufficient on its own when you create the whole Java system. I introduced today some sandboxes. Of course, sandboxing technology does not solve everything, but using this technology like seccomp and AppArmor may mitigate the risks. If you are interested in this technology, please give them a try. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Kenji. We have a question. Actually, we have two questions from the attendees. The first one is Secon specific to Linux or it is available on BSD too?
I think it is only available Linux because seccomp and AppArmor is a Linux kernel module.
Thank you. And the second one is, I guess Java module system also provide a kind of sandboxing. Yes.
Yes, Java provide security manager was provided security manager, but it's deprecated since I remember maybe Java 17 or around that. So in near future, you cannot use the security manager as a sandbox, a native Java sandbox. So we need to find another way to use sandbox with Java environment.
Okay. Thank you, Kenji, for your time, for your presentation, and
Thank you very
answering all these
much.
questions.
Yeah.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce the first lightning talk of this edition. Our speaker is joining from China. He's 6 hours ahead of us. Welcome, Denju Don. He's been part of Alibaba JVM team since 2017. He's an OpenJDK project committer and maintains Eclipse Jiva and an Eclipse migration toolkit for Java, which is one of the Adoptium projects. Today, he will present a summary of the evolution of the Eclipse migration toolkit for Java, from rule-based automation to AA agents implementation. And he will explore with the community what's the plan for this project ahead and how this can better support developer in evolving their Java application. Is Denju ready to join? Yes. Welcome, Denju, and the floor is yours.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hey, everyone. I'm Donghui from Alibaba JVM team. Today, I will give you a quick update on project EMT4J. I think perhaps some of you didn't know or understand this project very well. Let me begin with a quick overview of this project. EMT4J stands for Eclipse Migration Toolkit for Java. It's an open source project under Eclipse Adoptium Group. And what does it do? It can scan Java projects for compatibility problems by static analysis or dynamic analysis techniques at bytecode level, and then it use OpenWrite project to automatically fix the compatibility issues, and finally it will generate a migration report so the user can see the result. User can use EMT4J as a Maven plugin, a Java agent, or just a command line interface. It currently supports migrating to Java 11, 17, and 21. Internally, this project has helped most of our core application at Alibaba migration to Java 11 or higher versions. Now let's look to our new direction, the AI agent. With the rapid advancement of large language models, tools and or code assistants like Cursor, Cloud, and GitHub Copilot have been widely adopted. We can see more and more developers are using these tools to write code, fix bugs, or do any other related activities, such like submit pull requests. I think Java migration basically is just another programming task. So it's a natural step for us to figure out how we can use AI to improve the migration process. And this is our current focus, building a specific AI agent for Java migration. So what is AI agent? In my opinion, the best way to think of it is as an intelligent system that can perform job or work independently for you, and it can see and understand its environment or context, like your project code, and it can reason, plan, and execute complex multi-step tasks to hit the goal. Compared to the rule-based solution, the AI agent can perform migration much like a developer. For example, when some exception occur at a certain stage, AI agent can complete the necessary fixes based on the error message and the project context. And for companies that have many applications, it is often difficult to find dedicated Java developers for Java migration for every application. AI agent solution can, I think, can provide a more automated end-to-end solution to alleviate the problem. Of course, the AI agent solution is not a total replacement for a rule-based solution. Instead, it still needs to leverage the rule-based solution to accomplish some specific tasks. Next, I will briefly introduce the key components for building an AI agent for Java migration. First, we need to design workflow. Also, an AI agent actually can perform planning, but Java migration is a task with relatively fixed steps. Therefore, we can design the workflow based on the steps for manual migration. The second part is that we need to tell the model its role and the task, such as we can tell the model that you are an experienced Java programmer and you need to migrate this project for Java version from 8 to 21. And we also need to provide templates for relevant environmental information, such as code snippets, configuration, and error messages. Third, we need to use React technology to supplement additional knowledge. Oracle officially provide Java migration guides, and there are many Java migration blogs on the internet. Also, enterprises can prepare additional documents to cover migration methods for internal frameworks and libraries. And finally, we needed to integrate some important tools into the agent, such as code analysis, code manipulation, and project building, testing, and version control like Git option. Last thing I want to mention is that there are many tools or frameworks to help you build an AI agent, like LangChain, ADT, and etc. You can choose one of them according to your requirements. Now we are already using the AI agent solution at Alibaba, and we have seen some progress. Next, we will add the support for Java 25 and plan to open source our internal efforts. Okay, that's all I have today.
Thank you, then you. Wait, you're sharing your screen. Thank you. That's interesting. Indeed, it is a good implementation of artificial intelligence to do all the needed migration, especially for those big projects. If not, just a reminder that our migration toolkit team is available to support you if you would like to use their tool. You can always raise an issue on that. I would like to share some reminders. If I find the share screen option here. Yes, so as a reminder, this is our first time using Zoom webinar. So far, so good. Thank you to everyone for being here, being around, and joining the Zoom link. We have more sessions to come. We already have our first long session and our field lighting talk. We have 3 more sessions, 2 lighting talks, and 1 special session that it will be done in our halftime, like in an hour from now. A reminder that all talks will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Just subscribe to Eclipse Adoptium channel and you will get the notification when the recording is ready. As attendee, if you have any issue, raise your hands and our team will help you. If you have any concern, you can use the chat to connect. And if you want to make any question to our speaker, you can use the Q&A option and your question will be answered after the speaker session. As we know that we have a lot of attendees from different countries, especially Asia, please use a caption, it will be easy for you to understand. You will get those subtitles and complete the feedback form. This is the QR for the feedback form. It's both for the entire event content speaker and also a speaker and sessions feedback, which is really helpful for everyone on how to share all this information. So I'm super happy to introduce our next session. It will be done by Noah and Jesse. They are talented members of Open Elements. That this is a participant member of Adoptium Working Group. They are joining from Uganda. And they started actually their talk is about this, how a first contribution to open source project helped them to be a paid open source developer. I'm happy to have them here. Noah is a software engineer at OpenElement. He has been contributing to open source project, improving Java developers tools, and advocated for inclusivity across the Africa ecosystem. And Jesse is very passionate about using technology and drive meaningful changes. So very excited for this talk, this session, and the floor is all yours. Welcome to Adoptium Summit.
Thank you, Carmen, for the introduction. And if you're talking, no way, you're on mute.
Sorry. So our topic for the summit is how our contribution to open source helped us to become like the paid open source developers. And we chose this topic in particular to inspire most of young developers from the global south, since open source is still rare in the global south. So we chose this topic mainly to inspire young developers from African countries to see if they can also build a career through open source. So, sorry. Need to find out something. Cool. So, me personally, I'm Noah Tayebwa. I'm a software developer at Open Elements. I'm passionate about the Java ecosystem, and I'm so much interested in mentoring young developers like me, especially from the global south. And I hold a bachelor's degree in software engineering, and I'm a strong advocate for open source across East Africa.
Yeah, so I'm Jesse Sebeliva, and I'm a front-end developer at Open Elements. I'm self-taught, and I like open source a lot, and I like Web3 also so much. And I'm happy to be a speaker of the summit. And I thank you all for joining the Adoptium Summit. And yeah, enjoy the presentation.
Yeah, so we are going to be sharing our journey. It's quite a long one. I have like a large story. I'm not sure I can tell like the whole story of all our journey from where we started from, but we'll just give highlights of our journey. Yeah, so me in particular, I was born in northern Rwanda and later moved to Uganda at around the age of 10. And how I came to pick interest in in software development. So I had a friend who is Ethiopian. So he had a lot of laptops when he was still young, and he played like a lot of games. So I was always curious to know, like, how does this happen? How does these games work and stuff like that? So I was so really like fascinated on how these games were working in the background. And so when I tried to investigate, so I remember asking our computer teacher by then in high school, then he showed me like the code that was written. I can't tell what it was right now, but it was some small codes that were written. So he's like, whatever you're seeing here, this is the background of it. So I was like, yo, this is interesting. So I fell in love with computers. I really wanted to know how everything worked. And that's how I decided to do like software engineering in university so that I could find out how these games were working. So that was like one of the biggest inspirations I had to do software engineering. So when I was at campus, I met a friend who introduced me to open source on my first day, I think, at campus. So introduced me to open source, and one of the most famous communities that he introduced me to here in Uganda was OpenMRS. So OpenMRS is a medical record system that is used to keep medical records used in hospitals. So it was such an interesting thing that he was in Uganda and was able to communicate like with people, with other developers from across the globe. And it was such an interesting thing for me. So I kept following him up, and it was quite not simple because there's less or almost no guidance, because like we needed to figure out everything by ourselves, because he had heard of it, and we really needed also to figure out everything by ourselves. And it was just, we were fresh from high school, so it was quite complicated by then because hello.
Oh, sorry, I was not muted. Sorry, my fault.
Okay. Yeah, so it was quite complicated because it was, we needed to figure out everything on our own, and documentation by then was over the place, and it was really hard to figure out stuff. But eventually it took us like quite long, but eventually, because I remember pushing my first pull request took me about 5 to 6 months, and we finally figured it out. Yeah, so and later on we did some contributions, and we learned about a lot of stuff, how open source projects are managed, the JIT workflows, and project management tools like Jira. Jira was my first project management tool I associated myself with. So it was quite an interesting journey. So later on, I happened to join other communities like Adoptium and other Eclipse Foundation communities. I also participated in humanitarian OpenStreetMap. So basically, that's like the simple story about my journey and how I came to join Adoptium as a contributor.
Yes, thank you, Noah. So I started open source also from OpenMRS, and I had to learn a few stuff via YouTube and other communities like Free Code Camp, and yeah, I had to learn a few skills, and then I joined open source inspired by my brother, and we're all living in Uganda, and for him, he's still working with OpenMRS, and I was introduced to the Eclipse Foundation by Noah, and that's how I began my professional journey. And I'm happy that I found Eclipse Adoptium. I'm happy that I found Eclipse Foundation. And I'm happy that I'm into open source. I'm into products that are helping the world globally. And I'm happy that I'm collaborating with different people in different world. And yeah, and I think that's quite good. Next slide. So since whenever we talk about our career path, we can't forget to talk about OpenMRS since it is our first step on this journey. So as he said, OpenMRS is an open source medical record system, and it is open source and free to use, and it is used in over 80 countries. And in Uganda, it is used by a lot of clinics and hospitals, and including the Ministry of Health of Uganda. And I'm happy that I could contribute to a real life project that is benefiting the world. And yeah, I think that is most of it about OpenMRS. Yeah.
So most of maybe the people are wondering how we got connected to the global communities. So how we connected to the global communities? We connected with Hendrik Ebers, the CEO of Open Elements, and he's a board member of Eclipse Foundation through Adoptium. So how I met him was quite funny, and it's an interesting story. So I remember about 2 years ago, I just bumped into the Adoptium project, and then I went to the Slack channel of Eclipse Adoptium. Then I sent a message as like, I'm from Uganda, and talked about myself. Then I was like, I'd like to contribute to the Adoptium project, and boom, the first person to answer was Hendrik. I was like, you can start from here and make and do some pull requests. So he told me I could start with the website. So I went to the website and did like a few pull requests, and he was always one of the people always tagged. And it was quite interesting that I did a few pull requests on the website, and they were successful, and they are always there to help. I could see a lot of people in this panel who helped me, like Carmen helped me, and Hendrik himself, Sherry. They are really like good people to me, and they always like helped me with the pull requests. And after I did also some bit of documentation for the Adoptium project. Yeah. And then it was quite interesting that even after that, Hendrik always followed me up, and he asked me what I do, whether I had a job and something like that. So that's basically how I got connected with him through the Adoptium project, and that sparked like a lot of global contributions, even when we had never met in person. Yeah. So Open Elements itself is an open source company and a member of Eclipse Foundation, and Open Elements is a strong supporter of the Adoptium project, and it is really engaged in mentoring other career developers like us. And I'm really so grateful to Open Elements that it really has like developers so far from the global south, which is like a plus for us Africans, and really promoting open source contributions from Africa. Yeah, so this year, in the beginning of this year, we happened to meet our team from Open Elements in Italy, and we happened also to attend the Oscar Fest in in Nigeria, where we represented Eclipse Foundation.
So we would also like to talk about the challenges that are majorly faced by the southern part of the world, and specifically Africa. And I will be speaking specifically for East Africa and particularly Uganda, since that's where I'm from. But I think the issues are quite the same. And yeah, so one of the issues, if we are to talk about what we are facing this side, concerns about infrastructure, where in Kampala here, internet, power, and yeah, and IT stuff are hard like to base on, since internet and power can just go it out anytime, can experience a power outage at any time. And another thing, here in Uganda, Kampala, it is quite hard to get access to opportunities that are tech related. And it is changing thanks to the open source world, and thanks to different people who are willing to preach about more about open source. And yeah, but way back like 5 years, 6 years, it was quite hard. And yeah, this is what we try to preach about, tell different people in African countries to learn more about open source and know more about open source. Next slide. Yeah, so another thing is about different mentorship gaps, because yeah, we tend to see that in our local areas we have engineers that are not quite experienced, and that can limit us in our learning pathways, since yeah, we can't get that much exposure as it is in the east and in the west. And open source has helped us so much, linking up with people like Kendrick, linking up with people like George and other technical people from different communities who really showed us the way how things are done technically. I would say is a very good thing, and I really like all different people from different worlds who have never experienced that to get a chance and know about that. So another issue is community adoption. So while Ugandan developers contribute to OpenMRS as an example, uh, other open source communities are very rare. I came to know about Eclipse Foundation from Noah, but all my life, when I was still learning basic coding stuff, I never heard about any other community apart from OpenMRS, since it is what we knew, what we locally knew. And um, that's why it is quite hard for people in the south here to like
Noah, I think we lost Jesse. Can you maybe continue?
Yeah, I think we lost him along the way. So it was mentioning about the community adoption. I personally, I would say I was also The only community I knew way back was OpenMRS, since some of our mentors who told us about open source. It's the only community they used to talk about. So I had no idea that there are other open source communities. Not until I joined, I started researching myself, since I really found like the open source world very interesting, and the opportunities that were around open source. So it would be good like to promote sensitization about open source in Uganda, I mean in the global south in particular.
Yeah.
So what helped us succeed, especially in the contributions, was the Adoptium's new contributors program. It really gave a structure where like first issues were accessible and mentorship, and the community was really welcoming, that they always followed you up and find out if you're stuck anywhere, and they really matched the code in time and really inspired you to do more work and stuff like that. Then I happened to contribute to the Google Sum of Code. Still, that was in Eclipse Foundation on the Eclipse Cargo Tracker project, and I was mentored by Reza Rahman. And then Hendrik opened a lot of doors for us through the fast track conversations. When I had that conversation with him, I told you before. So he hired me part-time by then. Then I started working part-time with Open Elements. Then after a while, he asked me if I knew of a friend who knew how to write code and maybe didn't have like a job by then. Then Jesse was my friend and he was around. So I was like, yes, I have a friend. Then that's how Jesse joined us like at Open Elements. And we worked for like 8 months. Then after that, he hired us as full-time contributors of Open Elements. So currently we are working full-time for Open Elements. Then also collaboration across borders. We have been able to work across different teams, especially now for Jesse, who is so much involved with the Adoptium website. And we're also doing something with Maven and other projects like Hiro, where we have been able to link up with other contributors and collaborators in the world of open source. So that was a plus for us because it helps us to get exposed to different technologies. It helps us build our skills and helps us build our career and make like a lot of connections through these communities. Then alternative education, open source taught us skills equivalent to a computer science degree, like project management, GitHub workflows, community collaboration. So it's quite hard that you could really find such skills way back in school, because some of these skills you can't find them in school. Just for instance, if you're doing like a computer science degree or maybe a software engineering degree, you even if you learn like the project management, you can't learn how to use like all the project management tools. You can't learn like GitHub and Git, and maybe you master it very well. It is most likely through this open source communities and contributions that we are able to attain such skills. And of course, the communication skill also, and community collaboration as well.
Yeah, so having known a little about us and what we do, so this is the major thing of why we were wanted to do this presentation. Wanted to share how the Adoptium new contributor program changed our lives professionally. And I guess we have shared most of it. But in a wrap up, I have been able to grow personally, professionally, socially, and through contributions, working with different people from different communities. And that is a great thing, as we all know, in terms of career and in terms of life development. We have been able to also transition from being self-taught to being an OSS developer at Open Elements, which is a great thing and a great achievement, I would say. And the other thing that I would really hit much on is about yeah, we got a chance to move around different locations of the world and meeting up with different people, meeting up with Aurelie from Eclipse Foundation, Frederick, other people from Nigeria, those who we met on the Open Source Africa. We're also able to be on a meetup for Open Elements in German, and I would say that's really a great thing. And yeah, I would pray that this would happen to most of the people in the global south, such that they can get to experience what you've experienced so far. So this experience so far has helped us to get a broader vision. Because actually I was thinking 2 years back is not how I'm thinking right now after all this exposure to different people. And I would say I have greater visions and I have greater skills, and I have the good people, the right people to help me achieve those visions. And this has also showed us a proof of possibility, and that's a great thing also. It has showed us that some things can happen, and that's something that gives us hope. Coming from the global south, and then you are part of Adoptium, and you can do some contributions and Adoptium projects. I would say it's a great thing. Yeah.
So I would like to talk about why open source matters to maybe everyone watching me, and especially people from the global south, is open source helps you connect like with other developers globally. And this is good that in a way that that you share a lot of things, you share a lot of ideas. You helps you build your skills, your technical skills and non-technical skills. And that's like one of the most important things you can do in your career when you're still, especially like for the young developers, joining open source will help you done like a lot of things. We can't mention all of them. It's really like a lot of stuff you can learn from open source. And I would really encourage young developers from the global south and across the globe to join open source. And to me personally, open source gives me a sense of pride that if I worked on something and I know it is being used like across the globe and it is maybe helping someone across the world, it makes me feel happy that I really made an achievement. That's like self-satisfaction to me. Then it helps build careers and skills. You can build like your career through open source, after learning like a lot of skills, how things work, communication skills, connections with other developers across the globe. I would say for that reason, open source matters too much. Then open source drives innovation through collaboration. I happen to have like a conversation with some developers in Nigeria, and I noticed like most of them have the innovation they have made was through people they met on conferences and maybe shared ideas and brought it to life. So I'd say when you get part of open source, it's a place for ideas. It's a community for ideas where you can share your ideas with people, and maybe you have something moving, maybe you part of the innovations going on and stuff like that. So I would say in open source, it's a great deal for innovations. And there's always a saying that says that two heads are better than one. So if you are really working in collaboration, you always have better streamlined ideas. Yeah, so that's the end of our presentation. So as we conclude, I would like to urge other young developers, especially developers from the Global South, to join the open source communities. It doesn't matter which open source community you've joined. It's not that we are advocating for particular open source communities, maybe Adoptium, maybe Open Elements or other open source communities, but you can just pick a random project you're interested in and you start contributing, build your career, connect with people, and you never know where it ends, but I hope it went well like it did for us.
Yeah. So I also would like to thank Adoptium for the program, for the beginner program, the documentations they have available for new contributors, and also the community members being helpful so much. Yeah, thank you so much. That was our presentation.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
So let me have a look if we have some questions coming from the audience. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them into the chat or the Q&A section, and I will forward them to Noah and Jesse. So while we're waiting for questions, I have two. Maybe you always mentioned that you worked on Adoptium, right? And I know Jesse, and it was said at a short note in your presentation, you especially did a lot of work at the Adoptium project in the last months. Maybe you can give an overview of what you did exactly, because I think that could be a good inspiration for others, how they can start doing contributions.
Yeah, so I was really majorly working on the website for Adoptium, and we were doing some not hard stuff. We're working in just React, and we had mentors like George Adam, who could be able to review our code and tell us where it is to change, who could show us beginner issues that we can start with. And I was able to start from beginner issues, just changing buttons, changing simple text on the website. And I was able to learn how the code base runs and what to do. And that's when I shifted on to a bit of intermediate stuff. And I was also like part when we are shifting from Hugo to use some other framework for the website. And I also did some work. So that's basically most of what I do, most of the front-end stuff. Yeah.
That's great. And I think that that is an interesting message, because when thinking about Adoptium, you always think about, oh, this is Java runtime. To do anything here, you need to be the
Yeah.
super expert in Java. But that's not the case. As you said, you don't even did Java, right? You said you did
Yeah,
React,
yeah.
you did JavaScript, TypeScript.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different things how you can contribute even to projects that look quite complex at the first place, if that project like Adoptium does takes care and provide good first issues and provide information for newcomers. There's always a great place to start. And a question to, yeah, maybe then to Noah, I could ask it to both of you. So you talked about that it's complex, like in the global source, or now especially like in Uganda, to work on IT, to get your feet into it and so on. And you said, oh yeah, we had the luck that we came to Adoptium with all that friendly people that helped us and so on and so on. So is there any way how you try to give that experience not only here in this presentation, but even in Uganda to other people, to help maybe other people to get part of the community and so on? Are there any actions in that direction?
Yeah, thank you so much. So currently, what we are doing, me and Jesse started up a community here, a local community here in Uganda, sensitizing young developers about open source. So it's still in its initial stages. We have so far had one meetup. So we are hoping to make it big. There are a lot of things still in the pipeline. We are trying to set things up so we could help young developers who are interested in open source join open source, and spreading the open source message and telling them how good open source is. So it's something we are really working on, and we hope it moves well.
Yep. And some of them are actually here on the call. We had to tell a few to join in, and yeah.
That's great. That's nice to hear. So greetings to Uganda then, especially here to the audience coming from there. That is great. So I do not see any other open question. Oh, and at that moment a question comes in. Oh, there's a question. Let me ask it. So there's a question from somebody from the audience. Maybe you can answer it. If there are any tips for people who want to start working on open source in the field of AI and machine learning, do you have any insights into that, or is that a topic you never worked at? Anything you would like to say about that? I'm seeing Sherry is giving a written answer to that too, but maybe you want to say something to it.
Yeah, I think maybe as Sherry gives an answer, I guess there are really like a lot of open source projects about AI. I can't really be certain like which one right now, unless I have to first look for them up. So it's like Google has everything. So if you're really interested in anything, just Google it up. It's most likely you get an answer for that. So if you're really interested in AI and you're looking for communities that are AI related, I'm sure if you look it up from Google, it's most likely you'll get an answer for that. Yeah, and maybe I'm not so sure about the Eclipse Foundation projects that are related to AI. I think probably you can check Sherry's answer in the message. Let's see what she's typing.
Yeah. So there are AI projects in the Eclipse Foundation, and what the Eclipse Foundation has next to it is like a guideline how you should use AI when code. You know, like when working on Eclipse projects, what is the best way to use AI as a tool to help you coding? Is that something you are doing? Just Noah and Jesse? Are you use like AI tooling as help for your daily work when coding?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I use it.
yeah, like especially Copilot, the GitHub Copilot. I use it so much in my work for assistance and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, good. So I think we're let me see, what time is it? Yeah, we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but I think we can continue here then with the next session. One thing I want to mention maybe for the audience as an additional information, because I know it, that was the first time you gave such a talk, right? And I think that was again during clapping hands, because that was really good, and I know how hard it is to do, especially for the first time, doing a presentation in the open in not your natural language to people you might not know, and so really well done. Thanks a lot for telling us about your work and how you came to open source. And with that, let me have a look at the schedule. And so we have Sherry next, and I've seen she's already here. Are you ready, Sherry? Hey,
Hey
good to
there.
see you. How
Yeah,
are
I
you?
think I'm ready, and I'm actually thankful for a little bit of additional time. And thanks, Noah and Jesse, for that presentation. I've been watching all the presentations today. Wonderful demos from Kenji, the Great Lightning Talk, and it's actually really makes me happy
Okay,
because we're learning from different people's perspectives, and that's really rewarding. That's one of the things I love about working in open source.
perfect.
So did you want me to share my presentation? This is the special session.
Yeah, I joined a little bit late because I had a meeting up front. I don't know if I should introduce you, if you want to introduce yourself. Up to you, I would say.
All right. Oh, well, I guess I can introduce myself. I didn't put
Okay.
a slide about it, but
Yeah,
Hendrik and I, well, why don't we have a conversation before I share? You and I have known each other for quite some time. We've worked together at the project for longer than it was even at Eclipse Foundation.
yeah,
And we're both also committer reps, or at least representatives on the Eclipse Foundation board. So
yeah.
we have we wear a few hats, and kind of collaborate across a few things together once in a while.
Yes.
But I'm also, so not only that representation on the board, which means my role wearing that hat is to make sure that I talk to committers and find out what things they need and what things they would improve their lives at projects at the Eclipse Foundation. So this next special session is actually talking about the Adoptium Sustainer program from a committer's perspective, but it's also about how we interact with the rest of the community and ways that the community can help and ways that they're giving us feedback. So that's of interest to me directly as well, because I'm on the PMC, which is kind of the technical team that oversees the technical work at Adoptium, and also sit on the working group for Adoptium, which is more to do with how do we fund some of the initiatives we want to do at the project and all of the sub-projects underneath it. So I guess that's my intro.
Perfect. Great.
Okay,
So, and you
let's see.
want some extra minutes, so you have it, and
Okay,
have a
great.
lot of fun with Sherry then. I assume it will be
Oh,
as always.
great. And I'll I'll see if I can get into a mode here that is helpful. Hopefully people can see that, and I'll put it into a slideshow mode in a second. Slideshow. The wonderful world of presentations. All right, so this is the presentation, and hopefully everyone can see that. I'm also going to talk about what I coined as the Q2 miracle. And I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek with a lot of the things that I'm presenting here. I think one of the best skills an open source developer can have is a little bit of a sense of humor and a lot of patience. But let's get going. As many of the people know, we're just concluding the release activities for JDK 25. There is something that we do as a community, and certainly as the people working actively on the release, any release coming out of Adoptium, any Temurin release coming out of Adoptium, is we have a status issue so we can communicate with the public where we're at any given hour during a release period. And you can see here, based on that little screen grab, that there was this time around a lot of questions that came in from the community. So I'm calling this is like an informal community forum at this point. So I wanted to do this presentation to talk a little bit about or address some of the questions that came up, but also, you know, what it's like to work at the project from a committer perspective, from a project lead perspective, and kind of what we're doing when we're not answering questions in these forums. And so I'm going to actually take content from that issue, questions that are added into that issue, and I'm going to put them into they are in as part of this presentation now. So the first, one of the questions that stood out and kind of started the ball rolling of this forum was how are other distributors able to release their binaries on the same day while Temurin releases take several days to complete? And why is there this difference? So we're going to look at that a little bit. And then, of course, there's interaction between people asking questions. Someone in this forum said, okay, well, let project committers chime in with an actual answer. Because if we know the problems, if those problems are public knowledge, you never know, someone might step in and help with the release, which is a great, that is definitely what we hope will happen. So we're looking at that, but before we get into it, I do want to explain a little bit about how the way our project works. We have Adoptium, which is its own kind of top level project, and underneath it, a lot of sub-projects, including Temurin, the most well-known. That's what most people, that's what we produce. And there's a lot of repos and activity related to build and distribution of Temurin. But there are also, there is also an active test project called Aquavit, and a project that is focused on compliance testing called Temurin Compliance. And this is special. It's not an open project because in that project, they are using materials that are proprietary materials available via a legal agreement from Oracle. So that legal agreement is called an OCTLA, and it's between Oracle and the Eclipse Foundation. There's another legal agreement as well. I'll call it the three-way agreement between Oracle, Eclipse Foundation, and I have their insert name here, which is any individual or company that wants to join in the work in that project needs to sign that agreement. And so all three parties have to have a signature on that agreement. A couple other things of note, and it comes up in that community forum. Typically people with an OCTLA have, or I think, have early access to the technology compatibility kit, the TCK materials that are used to check that a binary is conforms to the Java specification. Tamarind Compliance does not have early access. So this already puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage to other distributors in that we don't get to start the work within this project until the GA materials are available to us, and that's typically around the same time that the GA tag drops. So our starting point is later than other distributors' starting point. And I will say, we're also having some challenges, which I think we're overcoming quite nicely. There were some unexpected team changes that were announced at the start of Q2, and this is where a miracle, my term comes in, that were to occur as of July 1st. And what this actually means is that a bunch of the people that were working in Tamarind Compliance, who were employed by Red Hat, and Red Hat has a 3-way agreement with Oracle and Eclipse Foundation to participate. A bunch of those folks, including myself, were transferred to IBM. Now IBM has asked for a 3-way agreement, but to date, only Eclipse Foundation and IBM have signed that. So there is a request out to Oracle to sign it. I'm not sure that that will proceed, and it's not really something we have visibility on. That's something between Oracle and IBM to work out. So just noting that the people who were normally working in this project no longer are able to work in this project. So there was a kind of a shift in the committers of Tamarind Compliance. Luckily, though, new committers have been onboarded into this project, and they're new to it. So they're still learning some of the things. They're doing a phenomenal job, given this is a brand new area for them to work in. But they are, as one should expect, they're in a learning mode, and they'll only be able to get better at delivering what needs to be delivered on this project. So we're, if I was going to answer the question, why are we, why is Tamarind a little bit delayed? I think it goes to these 2 bullet points from the perspective of the Tamarind Compliance Project. But I do want to talk now a little bit about our release delivery map. So this is part of our program plan. The working group puts together a program plan every year. This one, I guess, is the 2025 one, but 2026 will look awfully similar. And this is what we intend to release out of the project during CPU releases, but of course, March and September are feature releases, so it's usually it is one version at that time. During our 4 CPU releases during the year, it's everything with green check marks. So that means we're trying to release 58 different products out of the project. And for each one of those, they must run, we intend to run all of the Aquavit suite plus all of the TCK testing. But I will also note that only 48 of these are head full. Okay, so we're going to look just now. I'm going to take one of these platforms and talk about what this looks like from my memory of being in Tamarind Compliance, and I believe I'm not sharing anything that I'm not allowed to share from a private project. This is just talking about the kind of workload that and how the work is kind of divided up. So within a given platform, in the compliance project, we have a lot of the test material that is automated. And we put that into a category called automated. There are some auto manuals. That category is really automated tests that don't run well, or maybe need a little extra assistance, like firewall needs to be lifted for the running of a test case, or this kind of thing. So they don't go into the automated bucket. They get run kind of separately so that things run a little smoother, and we don't have to be always triaging so heavy on the automated pipelines. And then there's another category called interactives, which is manual testing. And I have a before Arctic and after Arctic. So I have to step back and say kudos and thanks to the Amazon team, who over the past 2 years had been working on, or probably even before that, working on a test framework that would allow these interactive tests to be automated. In fact, allow any GUI-based tests to be automated. So we will use these on public GUI tests as well. But it took them a while to be able to get this to be open sourced. And luckily, this timing of the open sourcing of Arctic happened at the same time that we learned that we were likely, a lot of the people that were working in Tamarin compliance were likely not going to be able to continue to work. So at the beginning of Q2, these two events happened, and we decided we were going to try to do something that was going to be very hard, which is within that short space of time, try to automate a large set of those interactives. So you can kind of see what that means from a time perspective. In before Arctic, that meant that for each one of those platforms in the program plan, it was 4 to 6 hours to complete the interactive set per, which means, at best case, 288 human person hours to complete just that part of the work. After we pulled off this Q2 miracle, and it's really not quite done yet, but we managed to get a certain way done. The estimate is that it's about an hour, for an experienced person, about an hour to complete what remains. So the interactive, the workload related to running interactives has decreased now. And I'm calculating this on a CPU release, not on a feature release, which would be a little bit smaller. Okay. So we also did some other automation because we wanted to be able to support the people who were now going to be brand new and working inside of Tamarin compliance. So we added some additional things that made it possible to see what we're allowed to see out of the Tamarin compliance project, which is the status of the test job. No details about the proprietary test material, but being able to see pass, fail, or unstable, and unstable meaning something failed, but we don't know what. This alone would help us because if it was a pass, this is a good thing. We could just proceed with checking off that check mark in the status issue and saying, okay, TCK is, the automated part of TCK is complete. All we need to do now is communicate or hear from the Tamarin compliance committers to hear that the smaller set, the after Arctic set of interactives is also completed. We also added new launching capabilities. So even though a bunch of people can't work in that project at the moment, if something was unstable or failed, and we have Tamarin compliance committers in different time zones. If they were asleep, which we do encourage people to sleep, other people would be able to relaunch things that showed as unstable or failed without actually being in the project, because we do remotely trigger from our build pipelines, the automated pipelines on the private server. So we are able to do that. Even if it fails, we can relaunch just the tests and not the build again, which saves some time as well. So in that summary of Q2 features that was delivered in that short space of time between the time we heard human changes, the committer role would be radically changed as of July 1st. We were able to turn on the automatic reruns. So even without human intervention, if something was unstable, it would rerun just the failed test cases. we were able to stabilize many of the auto manuals and reduce that set to almost nothing. So again, removing humans from the picture so that more things are moved into the automated bucket. Having that blind reach in to be able to see the job status, remotely triggering jobs from a public test pipeline so that, you know, if someone was asleep or, you know, in a different time zone, we could assist from outside the project. And then, of course, the large amount of work that went into making the recordings for the Arctic recordings for automation of those interactives. And if you join the Tamarin Compliance Project, you can see the very large epic under that private repo issue and how far we got with it. I'm coming back to our conversation now, and just to say that I'm so thrilled that people who were talking in the status issue of September knew about our scorecards and actually went to look at some of the notes that I put into those scorecards. I honestly didn't think anyone really looked at those, so it was really fun to see that people are reading those. And this relates to, if you don't know what a scorecard is, it's part of our measuring how we did so that we can improve for next time. So noting that already we're saying, okay, we've had a change of personnel in Tamarin Compliance. They're brand new as of the July release. So we see that there's a little bit of a slowdown in our release abilities or our speed, which is fine. I fully expect that as we onboard new folks. But all of this is happening in a way that most of the consumers, the millions of people who download Tamarin from our website, you have no idea of this story that I'm telling you, I assume. So I guess I've highlighted in the middle of that one comment, someone had said, this makes me wonder if Tamarin has a future. So I've crossed out the this makes me wonder, and just I want to highlight Tamarin has a future. It is very broadly downloaded. I think it's probably the second most popular distribution of OpenJDK. But I do want to make the note that the working group members, the companies that are supporting us by joining the working group and bringing people to the project, they are invested. And one way to know that are things like, an example would be recently we have announced that JDK 8 support is now extended to December 2030. So Tamarin does have a future, but we do have to continue how we operate in this project, which is retrospectively looking at changes and seeing how we can address them and how we can be better. But just to note that people are looking, yes, what has happened is we've automated more, we've reduced the amount of manual time, but at the time that we did July and September, we still haven't fully onboarded all of the people that can be active in the Tamarin Compliance Project. So it is a reduction, and it is new people learning. So I feel like we have a good story going forward with it, and that things will become better and smoother, and there is more automation that can happen. For people who don't know what a release looks like at Adoptium, I kind of drew this diagram quite a few years ago because I needed a way to step back and look at it from a high level. I call these swim lanes, and most of the people downloading Tamarin would care about the first 3 swim lanes. We produce tarballs, so the JDK production. We then also produce installers, Linux, Homebrew, Windows MSIs. We also produce Docker images, and for those who are aware, once we produce the tarballs, the containers that actually get produced, the final kind of push that lets them be available out of Docker happens from the Docker side, because we're based off of official images there, and it's kind of the final step. So if you have ever commented about why am I still waiting for this? One, they want all of our platforms to be done at the same time before making those available. So just because we have our primary platforms done doesn't mean we can produce the Docker images yet. But so that's kind of a little bit outside the control of the committers in Adoptium. But look at all these other swim lanes. So communications, and thanks to Jesse and Noah and other people, Xavier at the project, who work on website issues, we've had people helping us automate the release notes. There's quite a lot of stuff that happens in that swim lane that we need help with. So again, it's not related to necessarily needing to sign a 3-way agreement so that you can join the Tamarind Compliance Project and help with that TCK swim lane. There's a lot of places that people can help us. And then finally, I think one of the important ones here is the assessment swim lane. And that's where we look at scorecards and we do retrospectives, and we do them after each release to see if there are things that we can improve. But of course, as we move forward, we've added swim lanes. So there's an entire secure dev swim lane now at the project. I don't have time to talk about the activities in that swim lane at all in this talk, but just to say that we've achieved SLSA build level 3 for our primaries and most of our Tamarind binaries, which is impressive. We also have reproducible builds, which is probably going to go into a SLSA build level 4. So what this means is we take secure development seriously at this project. We know that millions of people download and use things that we produce out of this project, so we want them to be secure. And so we're doing everything in our power with the time we have to make sure that we're using best practices here. So if you're interested in that, there's ways you can get involved as well. But I do want to say, because of that comment about makes me wonder if there's a future, I wanted to reference this kind of fun mnemonic, which is a crisis exists, because we're talking about sustainment. And I want to end with talking about our sustainer program. And so this is actually, a mnemonic is just a way to remember necessary principles or remember things. And I want to have us think about the necessary sustainment principles we need in our open source project. And now this has a military origin. So I'm not saying producing Tamarind images and running aquavit testing and all of this stuff is like being in a war, but okay, I'll still use the mnemonic. Each of those first letters stands for something we want to be able to do or do well at the project. Anticipation, we want to be able to foresee operational requirements and initiate actions ahead of it being, ahead of being asked. So I'm going to talk about some examples. I'll review them at the end, but an example of this would be us initiating achieving a SLSA build level 3. So making sure, it was more than 3 years ago where we began the work, because we know that we need to continue to have secure development practices, because we anticipate in this world where lots of hackers and bad actors are around looking for ways to take advantage of others, that we need to fortify defenses there. Continuity. So this is like a battle rhythm. This is being able to deliver the right services and supplies and things on time, and just being able to continue. So have we ever missed delivering maybe a platform we have, but in terms of delivering on time within our targets, mostly we're improving that story, and mostly we have a battle rhythm here at the project. Responsiveness. So as requirements change, can we react? Can we continue to maintain support? And I think the Q2 miracle there is a good example. We responded to changes or news that things were going to change, and we're able to continue delivering, even though there is some delays at the moment while we get used to the new story. The teams responded very well. Integration. This is kind of, let's look at how we collaborate with other organizations and projects to share solutions, to share infrastructure and expertise. We do this quite well, and we have in our program plan ways that we're going to push this a little more. Simplicity. So this is, how do we have clear operating procedures and roles and tasks? This is really around our releases. I could use an example where we do have a release champion role, and now we've added a compliance lead role so that everyone knows their places, everyone knows where they're going to be working at a particular time, so that we can, if someone is no longer available, other people can step in, and we have that continuity because we have clear ways of proceeding through our activities. Improvisation. So you could argue that if you're really good at anticipating everything, you don't even need to know how to improvise. But of course, there's always going to be stuff that surprises you. So this is the ability to adapt and create solutions out of what you have. And our team does that very, very well. And when I say our team, I mean the committers at Adoptium and the contributors at Adoptium. Survivability. So this is the idea that you can withstand hostile actions or environmental conditions and still fulfill your primary mission. So really, it's reducing disruptions. An example in the status issue was why was the AR64 Linux platform, why did it take so long? Because normally it's a primary platform, it's out fast for us. Well, we actually lost machines at that time. So new machines had to be set up, and there were some infrastructure kind of, I will say issues that delayed the delivery for the September release. But being able to withstand changes and being able to react to things is part of that. And finally, economy. So an efficient operation. Normally, how this would work would be a project would have the flexibility to not be so efficient at the beginning of some initiatives, to learn and prototype and be able to actually just get something functional and then figure out how to do it more efficiently. And that's part of our retrospective work. Okay, we do this thing now. How do we do it better and more efficiently? How do we reduce our costs and reduce our need for certain types of resources? So again, I've mentioned some of those things. Sustainment in action. Those principles in action at our project are the Q2 miracle, which I have kind of described. The ramping up of secure development activities so putting that as a priority for our project and doing that starting years ago, ahead of when other open source projects have even been looking at those things. So I would say we take it seriously and it matters to our project. And I'm glad we anticipated that so early on. Another example of sustainment in action, having Aquavit, some standardizing stuff, having an extensible QA approach, quality assurance approach. This is one of those things that make continuity and make projects a little easier to maintain. Collaborating with other organizations. So we have been working with the Amazon team, and they had asked us to also share our learnings of Arctic, how to use the framework with other teams, and we're happy to do that. We met some folks from SAP around this as well. So share the knowledge, share the expertise, because that comes back in good ways to the project. Roles and checklists. So I talked about that. We have retrospectives and this notion of continuously improving, and then shifting towards, if one example of the economy thing, shifting towards more dynamic resources, so we have the resources when we need them and don't pay for them when we're not using them. So what can support look like here? You know, I've talked about that loss of a major cloud provider. If you're asking for how you can support the project, yeah, dollars do help, because dollars can buy us infrastructure or access to infrastructure. It obviously won't help get us more, well, I shouldn't say that. It doesn't directly help us have people sign the three-way agreement to join the Tamarind Compliance Project, but it might help add a full-time person working for the Adoptium working group to join that as their, you know, as their main mission. The talk here about the build server, I love this comment, and I just wanted to put it there. Thanks to whoever put it. The things don't run faster by looking at automated builds. That's true. We do take a couple extra days to deliver in the cases where we don't have access to early access material. But this part here, that's exactly what I want to leave the talk with. Contribute your time to some of those swim lanes. Donating helps too, because we can then fund new initiatives and support existing initiatives better. So what does the sustainer program, in my opinion, look like from my perspective as a committer? Well, so a crisis exists. We're not in crisis, but we are missing out on some opportunities. So having additional sustainer donations, dollars, sponsorship, whatever you want to call it, will help us achieve some additional opportunities in our program plan. Supporting the project, even nominally, really helps us anticipate, continue timely delivery, respond, integrate, you know, all of these principles that are around that sustainment goal. It helps us uplift and support new initiatives. It is frankly a morale booster for committers. Oh, people want to support us. That's fantastic. And if you do, we learn about how you're using the stuff we produce, and that helps us potentially support you better. So the ask here is to join us in any of those swim lanes, and even the one that you need to sign a legal agreement if you're willing. But help is needed in all of those swim lanes, not because we can't continue or because there's a crisis, but because we know that there are opportunities to be even better. So that's the end, and I probably went over, I have no idea. That's the special session, and I hope it continues to have us be a vibrant project. I hope it causes you to want to ask more questions that'll lead you into participating more actively at the project. And join us in Slack or those GitHub issues to be able to let us know what you think we should be doing better and how you can help us. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Shaggy. So actually, we do not have time for questions, but the good thing is you will be back in an hour, right? And
yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So we just cut now the question section because you have another talk about testing anyway, and we will come back to testing then. So as far as I know, we now have a short part with my bestie, with a video coming, and I think Sherina will show it to us, which is a new commercial video for the Tamarind Sustainer program.
You rely on Java every day to build apps, run your business, or keep your side projects alive. Eclipse Tamarind gives you a trusted, high-quality runtime, free of charge. It's behind the apps you use, the services you depend on, and the code you write. Trusted by developers worldwide with over 700 million downloads and counting. But keeping Eclipse Tamarind secure, fast, and compatible takes real work. As an individual sustainer, you make that possible. Your contribution funds the updates that keep your system safe, the tools that make migrations painless, and the builds you can trust to run anywhere, helping us keep Java everywhere. It's easy to get started. Go to adoptium.net/sustainers, click on Become an Individual Sustainer, and pick the tier that works for you. You're not just sponsoring, you're investing in the future of your own tools. Support Eclipse Tamarind today and keep Java strong for yourself and for millions like you.
Awesome. Good. I hope a lot of you will become sustainers of it. Actually, I'm already. You should do too. But with that, I will come directly to our next session. And I see we have Oliver here. And Oliver is coming from Switzerland. And hey, Oliver, good to see you.
Hello.
And
See you.
he will. So he's the maintainer of Eclipse Tradista, and he will talk about how to run that on Tamarind. And with that, I don't want to give a big introduction because we're behind the time. Oliver, the stage is yours. Have fun.
Thank you. So I share my screen. It takes some seconds. Hopefully you should see my screen now. Oops. So yes, I will present you Eclipse Radista. So Eclipse Radista is a front office platform. It is also an Eclipse project, so open source project hosted by the Eclipse Foundation, and you are making use of Eclipse Tamarind. I will show you how. But first, about Eclipse Radista, what it is exactly. So Eclipse Radista is a front office platform designed for capital markets. The main features are the possibility to book a trade, so meaning enter in a financial transaction. It can be a financial product, it can be currency exchange. And this served by a web-based UI using Prime Faces. So Prime Faces is an implementation of Jakarta Faces. And among the main features, there is also the possibility to receive market data from the market. Market data can be financial product prices, can be exchanges rate, can be indexes, and so on. So yes, these are the main features of the platform, and it is mainly designed for banks, financial institutions, even if it is open for everyone. In terms of design, the solution is based on Jakarta EE. So to be more exact, it is based on Jakarta EE10 in its last version, and the last version is also using Java 24. In terms of architecture, Eclipse Radista is following a distributed modularized model, meaning that it is made of several servers, each one with a very specific purpose, and all the servers can be deployed all together like a monolith, but can also be deployed separately. What is important to note here is that each server has really a very specific purpose. There is one for trading, one for position management, one for market data, and so on. It is designed for flexibility because you can decide to use Tradista as a web application, But depending on your needs, you can also use Tradista only for a specific part. I don't know, for example, only for market data integration or only the web UI. So it is very flexible, transparent, because the code is open source. So all the code is on GitHub. The roadmap is also transparent. The license is an Apache 2 license. And finally, it is also interoperable because the tool is only based on standards. It is based on Jakarta IE. It is shipped with Eclipse Marine. I will show you that. And it is also using standards using capital market, like fixed protocol, for example, to exchange data with external systems. So no vendor lock. The solution is totally interoperable. So now why we chose Eclipse Marine? There were several reasons for that. The first one, it is because it is open source and vendor neutral. This was important, this concept of vendor neutrality, the possibility to use a product where there is a community behind it made of diverse actors and not one single provider. This was important in our choice. Also, the commercial friendly license EPL 2.0 was key because it is a possibility for us to ship Eclipse Radista for free. And it can also be used for commercial use. The license allows that. Also, for sure, there is a huge community behind the tool. So this also gives confidence in the possibility to receive releases, fixes, and it was also a key element. Finally, the integration with our pipeline is easy because we can receive binaries for different versions, different platforms, sorry. And also there are even Docker images, so that is useful for containerized environment. So for all this reason, Eclipse Marine was a natural choice. Now, in more detail, how do we use Marine in Eclipse Radista? Basically, Eclipse Marine is our main JDK in our environment, meaning that it is used from dev to production, I would say. It is used in our dev environment, also used in our pipeline, and used in our releases. To be noted is that the releases of Eclipse Radista are packages made with install4j that contain the whole application, the database, a GRE, so Eclipse Marine, and also some dummy data. So end user can try Eclipse Radista in a couple of clicks. Everything is installed. So this Java is already pre-installed. Maybe a quick demo just to show you how it looks. So here it is a login screen. So a web application will connect and show you one of the main screen. Actually, so this is a trading dashboard. One of the main screen in Tradista will open an existing transaction. So basically in the dashboard, we have different panels. The main one at the top right is a form with all the details you need to enter when you book a trade. So when you enter a financial transaction. So here it is your purchase agreement. That is a kind of financial operation. Then at the top left, you have the book. So the book actually is your account. You can see how much money you have at a given moment, how much financial product you have in your account. Then at the bottom left, you have a pricing panel. Here you can price your operation. Pricing is assessing the value of your operation. What is the value now? What can be the value in the future? These measures are based on quantitative models or based on market received from the market. And then in Eclipse Radista, you have a couple of measures that are delivered out of the box, but there is also a Java framework to develop your own measures. So it is extendable. Price. Finally, you have the quote window. The quotes mean the market data received from the market. So we can connect Eclipse Radista to different providers. Bloomberg is the main one. You can also connect Radista with Nasdaq Quandle. But what is important to note is that you can plug Eclipse Radista potentially with other providers. There is a framework for that. And we can receive this market data on batch mode or real time, so depending on your needs. So that's it for the demo. That's a quick one. Just wanted to show you how it looks. So it is more concrete. So I come back to my presentation. So just before wrapping up, so key takeaways, as you know, Eclipse is definitely mature and production ready. It is actually a great fit for financial grade application because you can have very good performances with this GRE. Also, the fact to have a community, an important community behind the tool, give visibility to banks. So that's definitely a good fit for this reason. But also OpenJDK, what I could see is that it is becoming more and more, a relevant choice in financial industry because there is a question of cost reduction, but not only. The use of OpenJDK is also the possibility to be technologically independent. And I think this will take more and more importance in the future. Finally, what is interesting in Eclipse Radista, it is that it is a full stack, a full open source stack. Radista is under an Apache 2 license. Jakarta is an open standard, and it is also delivered with Temurin. That is also open source. So all in all, this gives an illustration of a complete solution from the GRE to the applicative layer that is totally open source and transparent. It is a motivation to work on this project. If you want to reach out to me or to the team, some links here. So we have a good website, Radista.finance. The code source is on a repo, so github.com Eclipse Radista. And here I'm always happy to discuss Java, open source adoption in finance, Eclipse engineering, JVM packaging, and deployment. And finally, collaboration opportunities. If you want to extend Eclipse Radista, use it in your commercial solution, or simply contribute, and I'm happy to discuss it in more details. Thank you very much. My presentation is finished. I hand over to you.
Okay, thank you. So let me check if there are any questions from the audience. Oh, there's one question. Oh, let me see. Oh, but that is, oh yes, it's already answered. It's about sharing the presentation afterwards and if they will be available. And yeah, for sure. We do not just live stream here, they will be available too. So let's have a look. Any other questions?
Sorry, I got a sound issue. But it's okay now.
Okay, perfect. Again, thank you, Oliver, for your presentation. Looks like there are no other sessions, which brings us to our next session. And yeah, back to Sherry. But not only Sherry. Now we have a presentation done by Sherry, by Ran, and by Long Yu about how AI can be used in testing, especially in open source. And I think we have, let me check, all here available. So welcome, Sherry, Longyu, and Lan. Can you unmute you? And yeah, perfect. Hey, good
Yeah,
to see you.
hello.
Hello.
Hey,
This time
perfect.
I promise to be faster.
Oh, we're good. I think we're good in time.
That's right.
Perfect. Good. So yeah, I assume you introduce yourself in the session. So have fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you. Let me share my screen.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I'll start by saying welcome Lan and Longyu, who are been colleagues of mine for many years, and we've done a lot of fun things together, and I'm so thrilled to have been able to work with them over the past couple months on some of the stuff we're going to present today. So before we dive in, I guess we'll say, what is Aquavit? We talked about previously what the project hierarchy looks like. Aquavit is a sub-project under the overarching umbrella project of Adoptium, and it stands for Adoptium Quality Assurance Vitality. We intend to try to continue to raise the quality bar for OpenJDK distributions based on the work we're doing in this project, and to empower developers to have tools and approaches for testing their changes. And since the beginning of the project, we've run based on a manifesto or a set of criteria. And some of those criteria are that we want to be open and transparent in our work, that we want to have diverse and robust test suites. And important to this presentation, we need to continue to evolve and invest in our solutions, and we need to have metrics that show whether or not we're getting better or worse at finding defects and raising the quality bar. And we want a portable solution in the way we test OpenJDK distributions. And we want a reproducible set of tools and approaches. Essentially, in a one line, we want to make quality certain to happen under the activities of Aquavit. And when we break it out and step back, what are some of the test activities that happen for any kind of open source software project? Well, there's planning and designing of tests. There's the writing, the implementation of tests. Once you have a test written, there's the automation of an entire suite. Once you're landing on a node, you're actually executing the tests, and that's kind of separate from automation, in my opinion. When those tests execute, some of them may fail. You may get certain types of results that you have to triage. Based on that triage, you may say, okay, there's a problem in the test case, there's a problem because of infrastructure, or there's a problem because of product code. And it's the product code problem that we really want to flag and fix. But the other types of problems also cause us not to be able to have a clean automated run. So we may need to exclude tests. There's a cycle here that happens in this little section. And finally, reporting. Reporting is really important in that reports should be succinct and let the people reading the reports know what their next action should be. So on each one of these types of activities related to testing, there are questions that you have, like when you look at automation, how often should you run your automated pipelines? How easy is it to run? Is it portable? When you execute, how few test cases do you need to be able to find defects in code, or how fast can a test run? So there are all types of questions that we want to answer here. And one of the ways we do that in Aquavit, one of the ways we achieve our goals that are listed out in that manifesto is by participating in open source programs. Aquavit committers regularly participate in open source programs. We have always done. I think there are about 20 examples of us participating in programs over the past years. And we typically structure our proposals into two parts. We have a concrete part that says, this is a well-defined problem. We think we know how we want to achieve a solution. So there's a lot of framework and guidelines and guidance around that. But then we have a second part to our proposals, which is our researchy prototypey phase, which is we want to bring people into our project through these programs and allow them to achieve and feel successful on the concrete part, but also let them be a little more free to learn and look at some of the latest, greatest research and approaches and help us learn what those are, being our research and development arm, essentially, at Aquavit. And we think there are mutually beneficial outcomes from that. It introduces new contributors to open source projects. We get to advance new features at the project. Contributors gain experience and can point future employers to their open contributions. And for mentors, committers, we get that additional assistance from these research and development teams that join us, these contributors, and we gain valuable knowledge about latest, greatest stuff, and we gain leadership skills. So in the last couple months, we've participated in 2 open source programs. One of them is Semesters of Code. And for this program, students from Carnegie Mellon University from Qatar and Pittsburgh campuses joined us for 11 weeks. They get a course credit. And we had 2 projects at Adoptium, one around supply chain security and one around performance and benchmark testing under Aquavit. And so we're going to, in this presentation, talk about the test-related one because that's the focus of this presentation. For the other open source program we participated in is Google Summer of Code. Again, having contributors from around the globe. And in this case, instead of course credit, that program sponsors contributors. And for our essentially 3 projects that we had, these were marked as medium-sized term lengths. So varying slightly depending on the contributor, but we had Commit Hunter, Glitch Witcher, and Vit AI, and 4 different contributors helping move these proposals forward. All right. And I get to say AIO. We're about to talk about how we used AI solutions, and I'm going to hand it over to my wonderful colleague Longyu to take over and talk a little bit about each of these projects.
Thanks, Charlie. Hello, everyone. So I will introduce how we leverage AI to make our Aquavit projects more intelligent and efficient. So we will talk about the design and the implementations of our AI solutions in the following 4 programs: the Perf Survey, Commit Hunter, Glitch Witcher, Vit AI. So I will go over them one by one. So for the first project of Perf Survey, in this program, we enabled the decoupled performance tests and enabled the automatically generate of performance jobs. And also, we can gather the performance measurement in JSON files on Jenkins and whereas display it in the TRSS. TRSS, it is a test result summary service, which is an important layer in our Aquavit test framework. And also we explored the AI-driven strategies based on the historical data, like using the AI models to do the input selections. And also we used the data to run the performance tests only on the high impact scenarios. So due to the time limitations of this program, so for the AI solutions, we just did some prototype. So currently, we are still working on integrating the prototype into our test framework. So if we look at the two figures, for the left figure, that is the dashboard of TISS. So after we run the performance benchmarks, we will see that for the decouple Eclipse benchmark, we got a performance of 100.33%, and then for the decouple H2, we got 100.09%. And also we have the calculation of the statistics data, like the mean, the max, the mean, the median, the standard deviation, and the confidence intervals. And also on the right figure, you can see that is the JSON file we generated in the Jenkins. So without TISS, we can also get the view of those data in Jenkins. It shows the values we want to look at for the performance benchmark. And another project is Commit Hunter. So the purpose of this program is when we have a good build, the last successful good build and the current bad build, if we have multiple commits among those two shards, how do we find which commit caused the test failures? So we start with the phase one of rule-based approach. So we just do some string matching based on the failure message to say which commit message is related to the failures. And then after the first phase, we go to the next phase of using machine learning models. So we collect the data from OpenGNN repos to identify the issues for the test failures. We collect the good shard, the bad shard, and then collect the commit information between those two shards. We got the commit titles, descriptions, and the patches. And then with all those informations, we used some large language models like the commercialized ChatGPT and the open source DeepSeek models to ask these models to analyze and determine which commit is most likely to cause the failures. So for this project, we have got it working in the prototype. So we are still trying to improve the integration with our Aquavit project. So for the glitch witcher project, the purpose of this project is to scan the code and PR to analyze which defects may be introduced. So for the approach one, we predict the faults based on the cached histories. So we use the bug spot to scan the repos, and then it is automatically integrated into the GitHub workflows. So when we run it against the Git repos, it will give us a prediction of which files we may cause the bugs, so we can add more tests for it. And we also explored the approach to the reconstruction error portability distribution. This is a published paper with open source code repos. So based on the code, we first developed the model to scan the C and the C++ files. We used the OpenGNN repo as an example. And since we also have Java files, so we also developed the model 2 to collect the information for the Java files. And then we found out the likelihood of introducing the defects in PR. So when we open a pull request, then we will scan the files that got changed in the pull request to say if it is if it is possible that it can cause test failures. So currently, this workflow, it works to any repos because the algorithm, it is universal. So what we are trying to improve is we are trying to get the algorithm more customized for our specific project to get to improve the performance and the precisions. So we have contacted the authors to further improve the performance of these solutions. So for the following part, I will pass it to my colleague Lan to introduce more about our AI project and our future plans. Thank you.
Thanks, Longyu. We have talked about the 3 projects that we have for Semester of Code and Google Summer of Code. For those projects, we purposely separated the concrete part and the research part. Because we have such a great contributors, and for this VEET AI project, we just directly dive into the AI. So just step back a little bit, look at the existing large language models that we have. They all are trained based on vast volumes of data using billions of parameters, so they'll be able to answer all kinds of user questions. However, it may not have a domain-specific knowledge. And what this RAG, retrieval augmented generation system, will allow us to do is to extend that already powerful capability of LLM with specific domain knowledge without needing to retrain the model. This is really cost-effective to improving LLM output for us. So we separated this project into 2 phases. Phase 1 will focus on the documentations, and phase 2 will focus on the code. We will process this store them into embeddings and store into vector database. So doing a query, what happens is the query will be sending together with the context chunks through similarity search to the LLM and be able to generate answers. Right now, we're in the phase 2. This project is still ongoing. So with all 4 projects introduced, let's now step back and look at what is our AI position. From user point of view, user only needs to looking at left side. Basically, the user interact with some sort of UI. UI to us is flexible. We can use Tumble UI, Copilot, or WCA. And then that's about it. And then behind the scene, however, what happens is this UI or central hub will be connect to LLM. At this, for us, it's model agnostic because we can switch to any model based on actually performance or which one is actually better. So whether we use ChatGPT or Granite or Gemini or Claude, we can switch that. And then also we have our own model context protocol server, so MCP server. With that, we can plug in any tools. The tool can be AI agent, so it can be a small domain-specific models, fine-tuned models, or RAG, like VEET AI, we just talked about. We can also plug in any traditional integrations like database, Git repo, or existing APIs that we have. So our current focus is in this MCP server side, so that we can at any time plug in or remove any tools that we want, so that our answers to the user will be more accurate. Okay, challenges and lessons learned. So I think one of the challenges that we're facing throughout the projects is because it's the data, the training data. Because those data are not really generated for AI, they may be like we have those data years ago. So getting them, it's really, really hard because they may not in the same format. And then cleaning them up is also pretty hard because it's hard to write a generic script to go through them. Lack of GPU resources is also a challenge for us. We had to use Google Colab free tier. This actually limited some of our project's progress. As committers, we have other priorities, like releases, other features. So our time is limited. So we will on this project, even though those projects are really, really interesting. AI field is rapidly changing. I think everybody knows that. I think the good side for this is it really forces us, encourages us to learn. And then also, I think a common problem is that it's difficult to validate AI results. We don't know what kind of user input will be, and then as a result, we don't know what kind of output it will be. Maybe we will start to have tracking system, so we know what kind of questions are more common or what kind of use cases are more common, and then try to, reduce hallucination as much as possible. The last but not least, we need to start small. I think, and then in that way, then we can quickly adjust our directions as needed. That's for the retrospective. Because of the GPU resource problem, we are going to update our program plan to prioritize investment in innovation. This is a big thing in Aquavit. And then with the Vit AI, we do see the potential with RAG. So we may extrapolate RAG to a broader foundation level solution, because that will encourage better cross-project collaboration. We will definitely continue to participate in open source program to advance on our AI position. And last but not least, to stay vital. Okay, so thank you so much for being with us today. AI is moving really, really fast, but I think the real power comes from how we use them. It is about staying creative, adaptable in a world that becomes more and more automated. If you are interested in joining us in a journey, feel free to reach out, join us Slack, reach out to us from LinkedIn. Let's keep building, keep learning, and let's stay vital together. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Lan, Langyu, and Shelley for the great talk. Are there any questions? Let me check the Q&A section. I don't see anything. Okay, great. All right, thank you so much for your great talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And just as a teaser, we wanted to say Aquavit, these project leads plus the other project leads, I think we'll be sharing some of the recordings done by the participants. I want to thank the participants of our open source programs very much. We've asked if they would record some of their work so we can share it more broadly out of the YouTube channel. So look forward to that after this summit in the coming weeks.
Yes, for sure. And as we mentioned before, all the recordings for this Adoptium Summit are going to be uploaded on our YouTube channel and will be available on the Adoptium Summit page as well. So look for that as well. And all right, so next up, we have the pleasure of welcoming Simon Ritter, Deputy CTO at Azure, one of our strategic members of the Adoptium Working Group. He's joining from UK. And today, Simon will take us on a journey titled 30 Years of Java, How Did We Get Here? He'll revisit Java's evolution, highlighting key milestones and sharing unique insights from someone who's been part of the story from the very beginning. So over to you, Simon.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, let me just share my screen. Right, can you see my slides? I'll assume that's a yes. Okay, so yeah, I'm actually not joining you from the UK today. I'm actually in Colorado. at the Dev2Next conference that's being run here. So yes, the idea behind this presentation is to look at the history of Java, 30 years of Java that we have. And how did we get here? Just a little bit of background about myself to sort of understand why I can talk about this. I joined Sun Microsystems way back in February of 1996, basically about the time that JDK 1.0 was released. And although I wasn't hired to do Java at the time, I quickly saw that Java was going to be something that I thought was going to be pretty big, which is good because it was. And I decided that I would move into a role that would allow me to do things with Java. And so I started doing Java, and I followed that all the way through the Sun years until we got acquired by Oracle. And then I spent another 5 years at Oracle. And for the last very nearly 10 years, I've been at Azure doing Java all the way through that. So the first thing I want to show you is this, which is the slide from the very first presentation I did on Java. This goes back to early 1997. So obviously my email address is wrong. You can't reach me at that email address anymore because, well, Sun doesn't exist anymore. And when I tried to load this presentation into PowerPoint, because I'm a sad individual and I keep all these sorts of things for 30 years, I found that I couldn't load it into PowerPoint because it was too old. So I ended up having to use OpenOffice, loading it into that, and then exporting it as a more modern PowerPoint so that I could get it into my presentation. Anyway, let's start with a little bit of prehistory. How did we get to Java? So there were a lot of design influences that led to Java. Java was an interesting platform when it came out, but it didn't actually really have that many new ideas in it. It was more about bringing existing ideas together in a way that allowed you to do things in a slightly different way. So let's explore some of those influences. The first of those goes a long way back, right back to 1962. And this is the Lisp programming language, which is a much more functional style of programming language. And the reason this is significant is because it was the first language that used some form of garbage collection. It wasn't really garbage collection in the sense that we think about it, but it was more sort of automated memory management and meant that there was some behind the scenes management of memory so that you didn't have to do all the work yourself manually. The other thing that it had, which was the first sort of idea that we saw this being applied, was just-in-time compilation. Now, it wasn't called just-in-time compilation back then, it was called compile and go. Because you have to remember that in 1962, most computers were being programmed using punched cards. I'm sure there's not many people in the audience today that actually can remember punched cards. I sadly am old enough that I can remember punched cards. But the idea was that you would actually generate punched cards from the program and it would sort of recompile it as it went along. The next thing that we need to look at is a programming language called Simula67, so 1967. And this was notable because it was the first object-oriented programming language. Java, as we know, is object-oriented. It has the concepts of encapsulation, it has inheritance, it has polymorphism. And so all of those things came from Simula67 as a programming language. The other thing that's notable about this is it was the first programming language that James Gosling learned to use. So clearly it had influence on him when he was developing Java. Then we move forward to 1973 and we have the C programming language. Now this was part of the Unix side of things, the AT&T, all of that sort of operating system kind of thing. The reason this is significant is because when Java was created, C was a very popular programming language. What James wanted to do was to make it easy for people who knew how to program in C to migrate to using Java. So he lifted a lot of the syntax directly from C and applied it to Java. If you think about the way we use braces, if you think about the way we use for loops and while loops and those types of things, and even the switch statement, and that's taken directly from C with the idea of fall through and so on. So the syntax of Java is very, very heavily based on the C programming language. Then in 1978, we got Pascal, which was really the first idea of a virtual machine. And this is where the compiler that you used for the Pascal code wouldn't generate native instructions for a particular platform. It would generate P code. P code was a sort of halfway between source code and machine instructions, part of the compiler phase. And what that would do is it would then be passed to this virtual machine, which would take those instructions and convert them on the fly to the native instructions for the platform. Obviously, that's the way the virtual machine works. So that's, again, a strong influence. And then the last thing we need to look at was the idea of the World Wide Web, which started back in 1991. And this led to the creation of the Mosaic browser, 1993. And maybe some of you in the audience will remember the Netscape Navigator browser, which was in 1994. And that was significant because, of course, as we'll see, the whole idea behind Java initially was around adding functionality to web pages. Okay, so the pieces are all in place. We've got all these different technologies, but where did Java itself actually originate from? It didn't just spring into existence. Where did it come from? The answer to that, we can go back to 1991. And Sun Microsystems was a very successful company at that time. And the people who worked there had been there for quite a long time. And they'd noticed, some of them had noticed, that the company was becoming more commercial in its approach, which is very logical as a company grows. But they were kind of keen to go back to some of the roots of the company, because you have to think that Sun actually stands for the Stanford University Network. They wanted to go back to the roots of the company in terms of the idea of doing more research and looking at what was going to be the future of computing. And so some people wrote a letter to Scott McNealy, who was the CEO at the time, and they said, look, we really need to take the company in the next direction and figure out what things are going to happen. And he came back and he said, maybe you guys are onto something. Why don't you go hide away somewhere and think about what it is? And so a group of people did that. And as you can see, some of the sort of founding members of this group, Ed Frank, Patrick Norton, Mike Sheridan, and James Gosling. So they went off and they decided to look at what was going to be the next big thing. Now, rather than basing themselves in Sun offices, they decided that to really do this properly, they wanted to get away from Sun and actually just isolate themselves and look at what they could do in whatever direction they wanted to go. So when they started this project, they found an office above the Bank of America in Menlo Park, and they decided that they had to have a name for this project. They called it Project Green. Why did they call it Project Green? Well, as we all know, the two biggest problems in computer science are cache invalidation and naming things. So the way that they decided to name their project was they looked around and they saw that the door to the office was green. So they called it Project Green. Now, the idea behind that was to look at what the future held in terms of IT. And so part of that, James Gosling sat down and he started looking at programmability for a particular project they were working on. Initially, he started with C++, and he decided he'd make a few changes to that. But eventually, he decided that there were so many changes he was making to C++ that he would actually create a separate programming language. Rather than calling it C++, he'd actually call it something else. So once again, we have the naming scheme problem. And he looked around and looked out of his office, and there, outside of his office, was an oak tree. So it became Oak. Oak was going to be the programming language that he worked on. And in terms of the description of that, he came up with this kind of one-liner about what Oak was going to be. A simple, object-oriented, distributed, interpreted, robust, secure, architectural neutral, high-performance, multi-threaded, dynamic language. He should have been in marketing, shouldn't he? Because that's all the buzzwords of the time in one particular thing. Now, if you look at that, it actually does describe very carefully what Oak is actually about, because the idea was to have a distributed programming language. You could move code around a network. And if you wanted to do that, you had to have architectural neutral. It had to be able to move to different platforms without having to be recompiled. That means you have to have it interpreted, the idea of changing the code into the native instructions on the fly. It had to be high performance. It had to be multi-threaded. It was object-oriented because of Simula 67 and so on. It really was all of these things. So the idea behind this was a device which the green team came up with, and this was called the Star 7. Once again, why was it called Star 7? Well, it turns out that, again, naming problems, they looked around and they decided that the code that you had to type in on a phone in the office to answer an extension was Star 7. So that's why they called it the Star 7. Now, what this device was really a very early incarnation of the iPad. So it was a device which had a screen. You could interact with the screen. There was no keyboard, as you can see. and it was designed to be a sort of remote control on steroids. And if you go on YouTube, there's actually a video, which funny enough, I watched yesterday, which shows James Gosling demonstrating this. And so I put a kind of screen grab that you can see on the top right-hand corner there. And it's really, really impressive what they did with this. When you consider this was 1992, so it was over 30 years ago, and you can look at the left-hand side there and see the specification of what this device had. So it used a microspark chipset. Sun had developed the Spark architecture, and so they used the readily available architecture that they had in the company. It had 4 megabytes of RAM, megabytes, not gigabytes. So that's a really small amount of memory. It had a radio link, which ran at a very sedate 200 kilobits per second. As you can see, it had a TV screen that came from a Sharp TV, had a touch screen that didn't allow multi-touch, but it was, usable, and a couple of other things in terms of PCMCIA and an IR link. And again, if you watch the video, you can see that it's really impressive, the user interface that they came up with in terms of allowing this device to work. So they decided this was what they wanted to do. And part of that was the idea of having an agent, something that could help you on the screen. It was a sort of, again, before Clippy came out, if you remember Clippy from Microsoft. And the idea was that if you needed help with a particular task, you could click on this agent and he would help you through the task that you wanted to do. Now, as we can see, this is a familiar character for us. First of all, he was called the agent. Then they decided to call him Fang. I think that's a bit unfair because they said he looked a bit like a tooth. I don't think that's really fair. So eventually he became, as we know, Duke. So we have a logo and we have an icon for the platform that they were building. And this even led to him having a single episode of his own comic. I've actually got a copy of this myself. Again, if you Google this on the internet, you can find people have scanned it and you can read the comic if you want. Before Duke, they came up with this guy who was called Greenbot. I definitely don't think he was as good. I like Duke. Duke is a good mascot for the platform. So in 1992, one of the things they did was they actually spun this team off, the Green Project, into a separate company. They called it First Person Incorporated. And again, you can go on the web and you can download the specification for the Oak programming language. It's actually quite different in some ways to Java. You'll find it very familiar, but there are a few things, especially in some of the keywords that they had, which are quite different to what Java became and what we know now. So it's worth having a look at that just as a historical context. One other thing that happened in 1992 was that the team had put forward a proposal to Time Warner, who made set-top boxes for TVs in the US. And they put forward a proposal for incorporating the technology they developed for the Star 7 and Oak and so on. And that had not been successful. Sadly, hadn't been selected. And so some members of the team had decided that they weren't really getting where they wanted to go, and they returned to Sun to work on the more familiar technology that they had been working on before. But the core part of the team stuck together and continued working on the project. And then in 1994, this is where the kind of real pivotal moment happened for Java. James Gosling was sitting in his office and John Gage popped his head in. John Gage was the chief scientist at Sun at the time. And he popped his head in and said, James, can I borrow an Ethernet cable? James said, yes, you can borrow an Ethernet cable, but what do you want it for? And John said, well, I'm going to go and do a talk at TED, which was a conference being run in Monterey. Of course, back in 1994, nowhere near as famous and as popular as it is now. But he said he was going to go and do this talk about some of the things that the Project Green had been working on, specifically the browser technology that they'd been working on. And the browser was called WebRunner. Once again, in terms of naming, the team had been very keen on the Blade Runner film, so they decided that they would call it WebRunner, based on the Mosaic browser, but with extra things that they built on top of that. So James said, yep, okay, if you're going to demonstrate this, I'm going to go with you to make sure everything works. So they went down to Monterey, set everything up, and John Gage started doing his presentation to the TED audience. He presented this web browser. Now, web browsers had been around for a little while, and people looked at that and they were like, no, it's another web browser, whatever, it's not very exciting. But one of the things that had on the screen was a molecule. You can see the molecule there in the bottom right-hand corner. Fine, had a picture of a molecule. But then John clicked on it with the mouse and started dragging it around and pulling it apart and putting it back together again. Suddenly, we had interaction with the web page. And everybody was like blown away. Suddenly, it was like, wow, this is really big. If we can add interactivity to web pages rather than just static information, this opens up a whole new set of possibilities for what we can do with the web. So in 1995, Java itself was launched. Now, obviously, we had Green and Oak, but the reason they couldn't call it Oak was there was a trademark had already been registered, so they decided they had to find a different name for it, and they looked around and they decided on Java. And I think that was probably a pretty good idea. Interestingly, when they made the launch of this, it was much more about pushing the idea of the hot Java browser, because that was the thing they really wanted to make the thing that was the highlight of this launch. And one of the things that they also did was they managed to do a deal with the Netscape company, so Mark Andreessen and co, and agree to have the Java programming language included in Netscape Navigator 2. And that was really good because obviously that was the most popular browser at the time. So having hot Java browser and Netscape Navigator support Java meant that more people would be able to use it, and therefore it would be more popular and adopted more quickly. And they came up with this slogan, write once, run anywhere, or as a lot of people refer to it, write once, test everywhere. I'll put a list of names here. So Silk, DNA, Lyric, Pepper, NetProse, Neon, Ruby, WebRunner, WebDancer, WebSpinner. All of those were possible names for Java when it had to be changed. So we could be sitting here celebrating 30 years of Pepper or 30 years of Ruby. Hang on, there is a Ruby. Anyway, so Java was launched. And so what happened next? Well, Java became very popular. Lots of people looked at it and they thought, yes, this is going to be the next big thing. Enabling applications to run in a web browser is going to open up all these new possibilities. What Sun did next was to create a new division within Sun called JavaSoft. And they were all tasked with the idea of making Java a success and looking at ways that Java could be applied to all sorts of different things, not just web browsers. And what they came up with was various ideas. They came up with the Java operating system. It was written entirely in Java. Didn't really take off very much, so they kind of abandoned that. They also created this thing called the Java Station, because again, back in 1996, you have to remember that some people were still using dumb terminals. And the idea behind the Java Station was to give you a terminal. You could access mini computers and mainframes, but do it in a much more intelligent and smart way. You could have more capabilities running on the terminal. So it became the Java Station. And there were a couple of versions of this. One was called the Mr. Coffee, and that was really just a rebadged Spark station. It was just a rectangular box. I had one of those, but I never managed to get hold of one of the Krups. These were much nicer looking. You can see the picture there, had more sort of curves and certainly looked like a much more interesting computer than a square box. The problem with this was it was very limited in terms of resources. It had only 8 megabytes of RAM. Now, although the Star 7 was designed to work with 4 megabytes of RAM, when they put an operating system on the Java Station, then they put the Java virtual machine on there, and then you put applications. 8 megabytes really wasn't enough. And I remember trying to run things on this, and it was very, very slow. Really wasn't something that you could use on a day-to-day basis. So the ideas of that kind of took off and then just got abandoned. There was supposed to be a third version called the Super Java Station, but it never saw the light of day. The other thing that happened in 1996 was Microsoft kind of caught up with the idea of the internet. And so they had the Internet Explorer, and they then decided with Internet Explorer 3 that they would include Java in that. So that was great because now we had Java across all the major browsers, and that meant that we could write applications, put them onto web pages, and then whoever was using whichever web browser would have access to them. This is great. This is how we want things to be. Unfortunately, that didn't really last. So in 1997, here we have a picture of 2 very happy, smiling people. On the left, we have Scott McNealy, who was the CEO of Sun Microsystems. On the right, we have Steve Ballmer, who I'm not quite sure which role he had. I think he was CTO at Microsoft at the time. And yes, they look very happy, but unfortunately that happiness did not last, because in 1997, Sun sued Microsoft over their Java implementation. The reason they did this was because Microsoft had adopted Java, put it into the Internet Explorer. But what they've then done is said, we think we can improve Java. We think we can add some extra capabilities in terms of the core classes. And some of those core classes we don't really like, so we're going to remove those. Now, that's bad because, of course, we have write once, run anywhere. The idea is you take the same application and it will run in exactly the same way on whichever platform. If you start messing with the standard libraries and adding things and removing things, it means if you write your application in Microsoft Java, you've got these extra libraries which don't exist in Sun Java, and Sun Java has ones that have been removed from Microsoft Java, then you lose that cross-platform functionality. If Microsoft had just left the core class libraries alone, created their own Microsoft extensions in their own namespace, we would have been good, but they didn't. So Microsoft got sued by Sun, and eventually they settled for $1.9 billion. The other thing that happened was in 1998, people started looking at Java and thinking, this is really good, we want to use it, but we want it to be more open. We want less control from Sun and more ability to contribute ideas and make it a more open platform. And so the GNU class path came about. And this was a project started to initially create an open source version of all the class libraries that we have in the Java platform. They called it GNU class path because they couldn't call it Java. Java was trademarked and they couldn't use that. So they used the normal approach that computer scientists use, which is to use a level of indirection. And they said, well, the class path is going to have the word Java in it somewhere. So if we call it class path, then we're sort of indirectly calling it Java. So they started working on that, and then they had a couple of other things, which was GCJ, that was the Java compiler that they wrote, and there was even a sort of rudimentary project to create a virtual machine called Jaffa. In 1999, Sun acknowledged that there needed to be more openness about Java, and so they created a thing called the Java Community Process. There had been calls for Java to be made part of an open standard. Rather than contributing it to an independent standard body like ANSI or the European Computer Manufacturers Association, Sun said, we need to maintain some level of control, so we'll create our own standards body, the Java Community Process. And that's been around, obviously, for 26 years now. The way that works is that other companies outside of Sun at the time and Oracle now can join the JCP, and they can contribute to the design of the specifications. So each version of Java has its own Java specification request, as it's called, and a JSR has three parts to it. The first is the specification itself. In the case of Java, Java language specification, the Java virtual machine specification, and a list of all the class libraries. Then you have a reference implementation, which is an implementation of the specification to prove that the specification can actually be implemented. And the last bit, which is very important, is what's called the TCK, Technology Compatibility Kit, a set of tests that you can use to verify that if you write your own implementation of that specification, that it actually matches the specification. So you have to run TCK to guarantee that what you're creating is functionally equivalent to that specification. So this leads us to a bit of a problematic time in Java's history, from 2005 to 2009. And the reason this was problematic was because there was the GNU class path project had morphed into an Apache Foundation project called Harmony, heavily backed by IBM at the time, and again, looking at building an open source version of Java. So they did a lot of work on that, but the problem they had was in order to prove that what they had created matched the specification, so it could be used in the write once, run anywhere way, they had to run the TCK on it. And Sun did not want to make the TCK available to the Apache Foundation. This led to several years where the Apache Foundation said, we want the test suite. Sun said, we won't let you have the test suite. And Apache said, okay, if you're going to do that, we are part of the JCP, and we will block all subsequent JSRs for Java versions. And if you look at it, that's why we have a very long gap, was one of the reasons we have a very long gap between JDK 6 and JDK 7. JDK 6 came out at the end of 2006, and JDK 7 didn't come out until 2011, if I remember rightly. So there was a 4.5-year gap between versions. A large part of that was down to the disagreement between Sun and the Apache Foundation, which then leads us to 2006, which is when Sun decided that they would open source their version of Java. And this is where we get the OpenJDK from. The OpenJDK was created as a project, and initially only the hotspot VM and the Java compiler was contributed to that. The reason they didn't open source everything all at once was because they had to be very careful about the rights they had to the intellectual property. Lots of companies, IBM, HP, various other companies, had contributed things to the Java platform. So they needed to make sure if they were going to open source it, they had the rights to actually make that available. 2007, they got to the point where almost all of the code had been open source. There were still a couple of things that required some binary, what are called plugs, to build the JDK. I think it was actually JDK 7, if I remember right, it was build 31 was the first one you could actually build completely from open source. But it was very much that you could look at the source, reference it, and figure out, how things worked. Sadly, in 2010, the reality of the way that Sun was working as a company sort of hit home. And again, as I remember that, we had the dot-com boom at the early 2000s, and then we had the dot-com bust in sort of 2000, 2001. And from then on, really, Sun never recovered. And we sort of just saw a gradual decline in terms of revenue. We tried all sorts of different things. We basically open sourced everything. We tried buying tape companies. We tried doing all sorts of different approaches, but we just were struggling to make money. And eventually that became an issue, and Sun got acquired by Oracle. And so we ended up with Sun Oracle. They didn't use this logo for very long. I think they only put it on some of the Sun hardware they were still manufacturing. And James Gosling created this little picture of Tux and Duke lamenting the end of Sun as a company. I must admit, for me personally, it was very sad, because I really thoroughly enjoyed my time at Sun. So how did that then change things? Well, 2010, 2011, going back to the Apache Harmony project, with Oracle taking over, Oracle made some decisions. And they basically went to the Apache Foundation and they said, look, we are not going to give you the TCK. You have to get to the idea that that's not going to happen. And they had some discussion with IBM as well, because IBM were a big backer of the Harmony project, as I said. And eventually it was decided that Apache would accept that they were never going to get the TCK. So they withdrew from the JCP completely. They said, we're not going to be involved in that anymore. The Apache Harmony project was abandoned, and IBM then switched all of the engineers they had been working on Harmony to working on OpenJDK. So it was very good from that sense. We got a lot of sense of community, and people kind of came together, and we resolved all the problems around that. So that then led to sort of 2011, and with, again, Oracle making some changes. One of the things they decided to do around the way that Java was developed was they would switch away from using these big JSRs, the Java specification requests under the Java community process. Rather than doing everything through that, they said, well, let's sort of make it more fine-grained. Let's make it more part of the OpenJDK process, and we'll have these things called JDK enhancement proposals, or JEPs. And as I'm sure you know, you've seen, there are lots of JEPs, and each version of Java now has a set of JEPs. It doesn't mean that we don't have a JSR. There's still a JSR for each version of Java. It's just that most of the features that are developed, in fact, all of the features that are developed for Java, are done through individual JEPs included in the specific version of Java. And so you can see the specification of that, but that gets rolled up into the JSR. One of the reasons for that really is that the JSR only applies to Java SE, and Java SE as a standard only includes the virtual machine, the language specification, and the core class libraries. Other things in the JDK, other tooling and so on, isn't covered by that. So JEPs cover everything in the JDK, not just stuff that's in the Java SE. This sort of leads forward to 2018 and until current time. And in 2018, we had an announcement from Oracle about moving Java forward faster. And this is where we switch from having feature-based releases to time-based releases. Rather than waiting till all the features were ready for a particular version, they would say every 6 months, we're going to release a version of Java. And so March and September, that's what we're seeing. This is what we see now. Now, the other thing that happened was that various things changed around, excuse me. various things changed around licensing with the Oracle JDK. And so we then saw a proliferation of other builds of OpenJDK, so binary distribution. So obviously we've got Temurin from Adoptium, Microsoft have one, Corretto have one from AWS, and Azure Platform Core from Azure. So this all led to, moving Java forward faster. We've seen a much quicker, I think, development of features. I've seen more features added to Java than we've seen in the previous history of Java, and that's been very good for Java as a platform. Just to sort of wrap things up, I want to talk a little bit about Java community, because this is a really big part of why Java has been such a success. Yes, it's great technology. Yes, it's been very popular in terms of scalability for big internet applications, and that's all very good. But the success of Java has been about more than just that. It's been about the community. So a couple of things to say about this. One is we had this conference, Java 1, started in 1996, ran until under Sun until 2009. Oracle then continued it for a couple more years. They co-located it with Oracle Open World. And 2018, it became Code 1. Then in 2022, it went back to being Java 1. Went back to being Java 1 on its own in Las Vegas. And then this year, excuse me, this year we had the Java 1 at the Redwood Shores offices of Oracle. So that Java 1, if you've ever had the chance to go to that, it was a lot of fun. It was great to find out about all the technologies that people were working on. And I just put a couple of pictures here. One of all the badges I had from the various Java 1s that I went to. There's a picture of a much younger version of me there next to Duke. I think that was 2004. And even a picture there of Scott McNeely with Steve Jobs when they were making an announcement about Java on the Mac. The other thing about Java is there are a large number of Java user groups all over the world. As you can see, there's lots in Europe, there's a number in Asia, and there's quite a few in North, Central, and South America as well. So they're all over the world, covering different places. And these are great ways to meet up with fellow Java enthusiasts, to learn about new things that are happening in the Java world, share your experience, share your ideas, and so on. And so, yes, I thoroughly recommend that if there is a Java user group near you, then join it and see what's going on and find out about sharing your interests. The other thing is, obviously, there are lots of Java-based conferences. Like I say, I'm currently at one in Colorado, Dev to Next, being run by Venkat. I'm sure many people know Venkat. And there are lots of other ones I've listed here, like JFocus in Sweden, JFall in the Netherlands, Java Zone in Oslo, which happened a couple of weeks ago, Dev Nexus here in the US, which is happening in March, Devox, there's various versions of that. Belgium is happening next week, as some of you may be going to that. There's various other ones in like Greece and Morocco and yes, Riviera Dev in France, JavaLand in Germany. Lots of conferences to go to if you want to find out more information. And then we also have Java Champions. This is run by Oracle, and it's the idea of recognizing people outside of Oracle who help contribute to the success of Java as a platform. Again, it's that community thing. So we find people who have done a lot in terms of speaking, done a lot in terms of publishing articles, helping to form user groups, anything that is working on the idea of promoting Java as a platform. It's kind of like the Microsoft MVP program. And as you can see, there's over 400, I think, because I put 403 there. I'm pretty sure it's more than that now, because I've seen a couple more people who've been recognized as Java champions. So we're probably closer to 410 now. So with that, just to summarize our 30 years of Java, I think it's right to say that Java wasn't really radically different. It didn't include anything that hadn't been seen before. When I went through that sort of set of technologies in the prehistory, all of the things that we're familiar with were done by different platforms before. But it was bringing all those things together in a single platform at the right time. So hitting that sweet spot when browsers were very early on, and allowing people to add functionality and do things in the browser really was putting the platform there at the right time. It's also interesting to think that Java has been massively more successful not on the desktop. So even though that's what created its first sort of popularity, it was the reality of moving it to the server which has led to its longevity in the last 30 years of Java. It has been very carefully nurtured by Sun and continues to be nurtured by Oracle. I have to give real credit to both Sun and Oracle in the way that they have made sure that Java develops and evolves in a very controlled way, but adding the features that developers want. We see things like JDK 8, where we added lambdas and streams, a more functional style of programming. More recently, things like pattern matching have been added to the platform. And it's adding those things in a way that doesn't break backwards compatibility, but does allow developers to be more productive and write more reliable code and things like that. Again, part of that success, I think, is because it's open standards and open source. There isn't one controlling entity that's behind it. And again, it is more than just a computing platform. It's an ecosystem and it is a community. And the thing that I'd leave you with is, where will Java be in another 30 years? I have no idea how Java will evolve, and I'm pretty certain I will not be working on Java in another 30 years because I'll be 90. So I'm pretty sure I'll follow how Java evolves, but I won't be doing too much work with it in 30 years' time. So with that, I'd like to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simon, for your interesting talk. I don't see any questions, so we can move on to the next talk, which is a lightning talk by Carmen Delgado, the program manager of the Adoptium Working Group. I work closely with Carmen on our marketing efforts and promoting Adoptium's key initiatives. She plays a key role in helping our working group deliver on its goals. And Carmen's talk, Adoptium 2025 Review and Plan, will give us a quick look back at this year's progress and what's ahead of us as we shape the future of Adoptium. Over to you, Carmen.
Thank you, Shabnan. This is the last session. I will keep it as quick as possible. Thank you for joining all these almost 4 hours and for our speakers to be here. I will share my screen. Okay, this is a 2025 review, even though you already have some summaries and highlights from our speakers when they were presented project status, and then with Shelley doing the special session, talking about what happened in the first half of the year. If you missed my first introductory session, and if you don't know who I am, I'm Carmen Delgado. I've been part of Adoptium community since this week will be 3 years already. So thank you for welcoming me back in the day. I'm also mentor and organizer of Step Forward, which is volunteer program for women in tech. I'm mom since 2 years ago, and I have Venezuelan and Spanish, and I always like to highlight this part because hence my English accent. So if you want to follow me and know about what I'm sharing and what I'm interested of, you can follow using the same handle for X, Blue Sky, Mastodon, LinkedIn, and even GitHub with all my talks and blogs and sessions. I wanted to summarize Eclipse Adoptium projects by numbers. This is a reflex of the success, as I actually say, that highlight that maybe we are the second most downloaded runtime. These are the figures from the last year, the last couple of years since the team joined, migrated to Eclipse Foundation. You can see exponential growth on downloads, and this year we have achieved 2 milestones, 600 and 700 cumulative downloads, and we're still counting. In 1 month we have 30 more additional millions of downloads. That means that that's a lot of infrastructure and things to maintain. I wanted to screenshot, I was looking at the Q3 stat, and I wanted to screenshot which are the most used version from our downloads, and there is still Java JDK 8 and JDK 11. So we welcome, after the migration toolkit session and all the information we highlighted here, we welcome our users to work on that migration. I know some of these users are enterprise users and you have a lot of constraint of doing that, but this is helpful for your security enhancement and all the security supply chains that need to be implemented in your developments and production system. Again, Shelly already talked about this, how many builds where the team is maintaining every time they do a CPU release. And this year we can highlight that every CPU release we have the highest amount of builds to maintain per release. January release was the biggest one ever with 58 release. And it looks like the trend will continue, and as we're planning 2026, that's a thing the project management committee will take into account. Commit activities, something I want to highlight is that 2025 is year to date, so it's up to September 30. Still, all these bills, all the millions of downloads, all these projects are being maintained for a decreasing number of commit authors. That's mean even though they have been talking about all the automation project they have implemented, all the enhancement, all the improvement they're working on, and how they're using the tool. This is a call to collaborate with the community and to help all this wonderful team to continue building their projects. On a note, we are not including here term compliance, and that is a prior project, and we don't share metrics about that project. Community update from 2025. Last year, I also shared these goals. These are the goals for this year. We have been working through the year, and we are running now the last quarter. So the first goal is vibrant, healthy projects. That means that we need to guarantee all the needed resources for our community to work on their projects and to help them to feel motivated to continue working and improving and sharing knowledge and etc. that is needed. Premier product positioning, we are already there. We are already one of the most downloaded products, so we need to keep track on what our users needs. So that implies to do also additional work regarding quality, performance, security, compliance, etc., etc. That means that's why secure software is a full goal, because we as a community understand how important that is for our user. And advanced development is to try to collaborate, at least for this year, with other upstream projects, with other Java projects, Eclipse Foundation projects that could bring back to the project, or the other way around, like other projects and yes, stakeholders that could find interested different adoption projects. So the community is open to have this collaboration, and actually they did with the Arctic project for terminal compliance automation, and the Trello initiative for Aquavit, and others. Other users using also Aquavit for their own builds. So let's see what we have done for Vibrant and Healthy project. I said this is linked to how we support the community and all the work they're doing. Support the community growth. Shelly already presented the new contributors program we have been part of, 2 semester of code program. Google Summer of Code, a semester of code program. We have a pay intern sponsored by an enterprise user. We have new contributors that help build and launch the new website. We had new Aquabit project leads announcement, and the community and members are supporting JDK 8 at least until December 2030. Information dissemination, we had up to today lightning talks, webinars, a ton of news, blog posts, and announcement in our news at adoptium.net. We also promote our top contributors. We do release awareness, we do program plan awareness, and we have launched the Sustainer program and engage across Java technologies, all the work related to the release of terminal compliant automation, Aquavit engagement, and all the SBOM improvement. So thank you. I have created this special live because this was a big project for 2025. It's an example that not all the technical contribution needed here is not all about Java technology. We have to launch this website, and it was done thanks to the community, George, Xavier, and Jesse, and also to the Adoptium Marketing Subcommittee members and Eclipse Foundation team members. If you want to collaborate with this project, we are still running some enhancement to be done, and there is there is a open repo. These stats are from the archive repo, the old one. Also, highlighting again the top contributors for this year's. In Q1, we had Lanchia. She already presented a session today together with Long Yu. He was the Q2. And Sophia Wu, also Q2. And stay tuned to figure out who is the Q3 top contributor of Adoptium projects. Premier product positioning, as I say, this is about guaranteed and give kind of tranquility to our users. So we are running and supporting 58 builds. As mentioned, the team is still working on releasing all the builds and all the feature releases, etc. Even though they don't have early access, and there is a smaller team dedicated to all the release work that needs to be done since July. And Shelly already talked about this at the special session. There was a huge work done by all the technical community focused on the Q2 miracle for all the release automation, and we have achieved the milestone of 700 million cumulative downloads and 23 million monthly downloads by the end of August. We're also supporting this premier product positioning with marketing material, the new website, the new sustainer program. We have a new members page. We have a new case study just released yesterday that talk about why an enterprise is supporting a project as Adoptium, an open source project, as an enterprise member. We did our press release. It's like a summary of all the effort done, also in like an Nigerian review since from May to May. This year we have a lot of representation at different Java events with talks and booths as referent as events such as DevNexus, Javaland, and JCOM, and OSCAFest in Africa, tax session, and different online and open source a community awareness events, and also community presence, and one of the most important open source event, which is FOSDEN in Belgium. Thank you to our release champions. Shelly really explained that roles are important, and in every release we have a release champions that is leading the way to all the teams that needs to work to get the release done. It's just following the checklist, all the steps that needs to be implemented, and yes, is championing that effort, which is a very big one. And so far we had 5 release champions. This work was done thanks to the support. Okay, I haven't headphone issues. Thanks to the support of, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Carmen.
Okay, perfect. All the releases are done thanks to the support of the Temeron Compliance, Aquabit, and infrastructure team from both Adoptium community committers and also Eclipse Foundation team, but these are the phases of the releases. So secure software, there was an important milestone of provide a secure mechanism for external and public verification. Yes, I will go back. Yes, the first release champions used to be Red Hat, and now they moved to be IBM. Most of them are previous Red Hat team. Okay, so provide mechanisms for external verification. This is a project called attestation of all the builds. It's part of the security work. It's a project that is still in progress. Even so, they have to shift all the effort to focus on the Q2 miracle. The team is working again on this, and one thing we need is to get a third-party verification from working group members to finally release the project and get it accessible for any build distributor or anyone that is using Temurin and needs to run this as part of their security supply chain development. And based on security, there's a lot of work on the disclosure report, and also we have the semester of code students working on different part of the secure development work and pursue additional secure software criteria. Shelly already talked about this, and other and Kenji did also, that Temurin builds have SASA level L3 for at least the primary builds, the primary platform, but the team is very aware of any new updates on any new specification that needs to be achieved by the community and by the team. They will work on that. So how do we support all this effort? There is a lot of marketing effort running to support the program goals, and we have two specific milestone goals. One is membership and sponsorship growth. That's why we have been working on continue targeting enterprise user with this new website look and feel and flow, information flow. We have the new sustainer program that including sponsorship tiers, what are the key initiatives you're supporting, and you can use the ROI machine, the ROI calculator, to understand how much you have saved by migrating to an open source solution. Because remember, free of charge doesn't mean that cost free. It has a cost to maintain your infrastructure. New members page that also includes all the benefits tiers and how can you join and how important it is for the community for you to be a member. We just launched the Bloomberg case study. You can check on the QR to read about this case study, and we do a lot of event outreach targeting enterprise user and increase awareness and other projects adoption. As said, Adoptium is more than Temurin, so we have been working on running that awareness with newsletters and magazine presence, the press release, release announcement, of course, celebrating 30 years of Java, promoting project committers, contributors, and support path, new contributor program, like everything else on the different project status. We also have some newsletter about that and so on. So how can you help? The work is not done, it's not finished. We still have a lot of things to do and implement, and we need our community support. So how can you involve? You can be an observer. You can follow us on our different communication channels, Slack, mailing list, social media, follow our news, wherever you feel is the best channel for you. Be part of the channel. You can join our community calls. You can register to our different virtual events. We have Adoptium webinar series open that we're targeting, as we had 2 sessions here on how your project is running using Temurin, and we want to learn what is this project doing and what are their needs, why they decided to use Temurin above other solutions. As a consumer, use our projects and provide feedback, and when in doubt, you can raise an issue on GitHub. The community is very open to those feedback. You can do technical contributions. You can choose projects of incidents. You have security development work. You have quality work. You have a distribution work website. You have dashboard engagement, like data analysis, like wherever you want to help in a technical way. A lot of automations. There are different projects. You just join the Slack and ask for guidance on where to contribute. You need to follow some legal technicalities and documentations and bureaucracy, but that's part of the process, and we're here to help. And if you want to do not technical contribution, you can do social media amplification, create content, and how you're using our technologies, submit talks, and attend our events, watch our videos, our YouTube channel. You can become an adopter, that's for free, to showcase how your company is supporting Adoptium community. You can become a sustainer, even though we have a very structured corporate sponsorship tiers, which are kind of high, the minimum value. You can also support as a small company using the individual sustainer path. We have some contribution from startups using that individual sustainer path. Or you can become a member and be part of the governance of the working group. So help us shape the future of Adoption. We have opened an issue on GitHub, and we would like to hear your feedback on what do you want to see next year, and the community, both the technical community, project, and working group. We take your feedback into consideration to plan next year, as we are now running the planning cycle for next year, and provide you feedback about this Adoptium Summit edition to both the event itself and the session length, the speaker, and what the topics. We are open to improve, and your feedback is much valuable. Thank you again to all the speakers, all attendees, and these are all the social medias for everything. Myself, Adoption, and Eclipse Foundation.
Great. Thanks, Carmen, for your updates on Adoptium's initiatives. And thank you, everyone, for being part of today's Adoptium Summit. It's been a fantastic day of sharing talks and updates for sure. And a big thank you to our speakers for their time and contributions, and of course, our program committee members for their efforts in making this summit possible. Before we officially wrap up, we have a few minutes for Q&A. So if there are any final questions or comments, please feel free to share them now by adding them in the Q&A section. And yes, as Sarina added in the comment section, don't forget to provide your feedback. It's very valuable to us about the event and the speakers by filling the form. The link is added in the chat section.
And follow our YouTube channel, because we will be uploading the session there. And also our social media, we will promote those sessions in our social media once the recording are available.
Yes.
If you miss anything, you can also reach out the community using our Slack space.
All right. I don't see any comments or questions. So with that, on behalf of the Adoptium Working Group and the Eclipse Foundation, thank you again for your participation and support. And we look forward to seeing you at future Adoptium events and initiatives. Thank you. Bye, everyone.